90s and early 2000s are often seen as NASCAR's golden years, back when the beautiful roar of the Gen 4 cars reigned supreme. Well, tonight we are going to be get set to see those Gen 4s roar back to life as they are getting set to set every NASCAR purist's heart ablaze. We may not see them in the real world, but we will get to let these monsters loose once again as we get set to go old school racing at Daytona Beach. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Green Flag TV. My name is Lola Rempel alongside Josh Baird, bringing you all the action from the High Tide Racing League MF Racing Designs Cup Series for race number 1 at Daytona, the SimWrapMarket 250. Josh, what an absolutely wild race this is getting set to shake up to be. 100 laps around a very classic circuit with some very classic cars bound to put on a good show.
Oh yeah, Nolan, I'm super excited for this race tonight. I know that the Gen 4 Cup cars are literally my childhood. I don't know how old that makes me, but I love these cars, and the bumpiness of this track mixed with these cars is going to be a perfect combination for action, and I am super excited to see, you know, some of those older guys that were here last season are really excited about these Gen 4 cars, and then there's some of the newer guys that are looking to try out to see if they have what it takes with these more traditional handling cars. So I'm interested to see who's going to come out on top and who is going to surprise us with this new car and track layout.
Benjamin Lacey, of course, will enter tonight's race as the defending champion after taking that title home in the Final Four at the Charlotte Motor Speedway all those months ago. And he'll be looking to see if he can put himself up into a good position to see if he can already take the hold of this racing series and see if he can put himself up to become the first two-time champion for the second season of competition. The style of racing, though, is going to be so wildly different compared to what we had last year, right? I mean, these cars, they're nothing to drive like the Gen 7s. There's a lot more fire underneath them, and it almost feels like the car itself is trying to rip itself from your control.
Yeah, I totally agree. As for a driver, there's days you love having that extra maneuverability, but also it makes the car looser. So we're going to see some cars out there that, and maybe not at a place like Daytona where it's a little more wide open and you're going to be putting your foot down on the throttle nearly all the way around, other than managing in a pack. But, you know, these guys are going to be dealing with the bumps. The cars aren't going to be as forgiving for those bumps, so you're going to see cars bouncing all over the place. You saw too wide, very deep going into those Gen 7 this time last year, and this year I think we're probably going to see more of the single file earlier on, and maybe even some more of the pack racing breaking out to where, you know, you're going to get chunks of 3 or 4 cars instead of all of them stacked on top of each other.
It's a very bumpy racetrack. I think you put it nicely right there. And that track is going to upset these cars a lot as well. It'd be hard enough racing the Gen 7s around this place, but the Gen 4s, oh boy. We saw a lot of folks trying to make their way into pit road, and even getting onto pit road is sketchy. You know, when you're coming off of turn number 4 on the NASCAR oval for this newer layout with the Gen 7s, you can hit the brakes a good distance after turn number 4. Not here, but these Gen 4 cars, brakes? What are brakes? You have to slam those binders the second you get off of turn 4, and it is, even then, you're only just barely slowing it down in time from pit road. I feel like pit road speeding penalties, if we get green flag stops, are going to be all the rage of the stories here tonight.
Oh yeah, I agree. Seeing those guys try and struggle with getting those brakes and getting that speed down to get into pit lane is going to be a huge deal tonight. You're going to see guys that are going to be running up front most of the race that could have their night ended just on those speeding penalties. So I know everybody's going to be clinching tightly when we watch those guys try and go in for those green flag pit stops. And I'm hoping for a lot of those green flag pit stops. I like seeing the green flag running here at Daytona. You know, when you get a bunch of cautions stacked up, it can be, kind of hard to enjoy. But I got a feeling with these guys, season opener, you got to break off some of the rust, but you're also going to get, I think, a lot of green flag racing because these guys are going to probably be a little more safe just to figure each other out a little bit. And we'll see some good green flag stints, I'm hoping.
Well, the checker flag will fly on this 10-minute qualifying session, so we are ready to get this show on the road as we are set to duke it out for the SimWrapMarket 250 at Daytona International Speedway, and we'll take you through your starting grid for this first 100-lap dash to close out the season opener from Daytona Beach in the Sunshine State. Brian Dees is your pole sitter with a 48.338 from MFRD Racing. Benjamin Lacey starts beside him on the front row, looking for a good start to kick off his title defense. Dalton Kilroe starts in third with Michael Thorpe Jr. down in fourth. Ty Marasco is in fifth with Dustin Ping in sixth. Tony Hilbrand sits seventh. Paul Satmary, is down at the number 8 spot. Eddie Hagge is in ninth. Matthew Johnson, one of the rookies, rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, 11th is Connor Gibson, and 12th is going to be Sean Britt with Mike Massengill in 13th. Nick Nickerson in 14th. Paul Wilson in 15th. Steve Ulrich in 16th. Jason Greenwell in 17th position. And Dakota Knoll in 18th. Berger Olson going to be 19th on the inside of that row, and Christopher Bassinger in 20th. Scott Schuer is going to be 21st with Matthew Chastain in 22nd, and Michael Ashmore tailing the field in 23rd.
Bottom 5 drivers not opted to put down qualifying laps. Bridger Olson, of course, a 2-time winner from last season, although he was absent for most of the season as well, noticeably so. It was a shame not to see Olson competing full-time for a title. We'll see if he'll be able to potentially go for a title offensive here in this one. A lot of rookies in this field as well, most notably, of course, Michael Ashmore, Matthew Chastain, and more. I know Ulrich is, I think, a driver that made a few starts last season. Mike Messengill is one of the rookies. Matthew Johnson, Dustin Ping, Satmary, also rookies entering this season. So this is a grid that stands 23 cars strong, albeit about 8 of them are currently making their first debuts here in the High Tide Racing League.
Yeah, I do see a lot of familiar faces like Nick Nickerson, and Benjamin Lacey is an obvious name. Brian Dees, Ricky Hart Jr., Michael Thorpe Jr., Dalton Kilroe. Those guys are very familiar names here in the High Tide Racing League scene. And I'm curious to see how these guys go from the Gen 7 to the Gen 4. I know last year, Tony Hilbrand's in his final race said he hated the Gen 7 car, and he actually did really well for the race, for the season. So I'm expecting to see some good stuff out of him this season with his point that he made at the end of last season about how he thinks he's going to be even better in the Gen 4 than the Gen 7 cars. So I'm looking forward to see who rises to the top and who is just devastated by the transition between the Gen 4 and the Gen 7 cars.
A lot of newer paint schemes currently out on the grid, as well as this field paces down the backstretch for the first and only time before we get to green flag racing. Most of these cars running the good old Chevy Monte Carlo kind of decks here in this one, but you do see a couple of outliers, right? I think that 41 right there, supposed to be a Mustang, I do believe. No, sorry, that is actually a Camaro, or at least attempting to be a Camaro, down to that number 41 car for Dalton Kilroe. I saw a Mustang right behind the number 1 car, so you see a little Mustang in the field, and there's a Dodge, a couple of Dodges in the field. Michael Thorpe Jr. running the Dodge Charger, as is the 81 car just behind him of Dustin Ping. So a lot more, I think, creativity with some of these paint schemes as well, which could lend to making this a bit of an entertaining race as well, to see who's going to make up ground where. Technically, these are all Chevy bodies, but like the Super Late models of the late model stocks, you can kind of mix and match some of the bumpers a little bit. But we'll get to all that in a little bit. The pace car going to make that drive in towards pit road, and we get set to kick off a new season of racing action. Into the restart zone goes Brian Dees. Green flags out. We're racing in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, we're 2 wide all the way through the pack right now, and we'll probably expect to see that for a couple laps, but I'm expecting to see those guys try and stay 2 laps out. And as we go through the bumps of turns 1 and 2, we're going to start seeing these cars bounce around the track a little bit, as we have the leaders going around exiting turn number 2 right now, and for a little further back, they're already stretching out single file.
Stretching out a little bit single file towards the tail end, but we're still very much doubled up right here at the head of this field. That outside lane got a bit of a pull coming to it. Benjamin Lacey with a bit of an arrow push from Michael Thorpe Jr. trying to make a run down to the turn 3. Can't get something sorted, though. It's looking like it'll be your pull sitter, Brian Dees, who will lead lap number 1.
Yeah, Benjamin Lacey and Michael Thorpe Jr., man, those are 2 guys that I would want to be on the top side with to try and make that run going down these bumpy straights and bumpy turns of the old Daytona layout. And we'll see a lot of these guys out down the straights. You're going to really see that outside line get a really good push going through there, but you're going to see that inside line make up a lot of time. Oh, here we go. We got a guy into the wall, back a little further back on the track. It is the
Satmary, the 24 that's dropping down.
Okay, we got the number 24 of Paul Sasmary that got into the wall. So he's going to drop out of the pack as we get along this race here. We're still green as we go 3 wide in turns 3 and 4. Oh, as the number 1 car of Ty Marasco gets a door into the car of Troy Hilbrand's.
Right now, Tony Hilbrand's trying to make that lunge on the outside of Marasco. 3 wide is a really bold call to be doing this early on into a 250-mile race. One more car into the outside wall. Haggy now started the drop back in the 97 machine as he's going to slide all the way to the tail end. And once you're in the wall, you're stuck there until you exit turn 2. But Haggett looks like he may have gotten off the wall in time, so he could pick up the draft from the 52 car just up the road. And it looks like he'll do just that. Steve Ulrich giving a bit of breathing room here to make sure that car stays up with the rest of the pack. Can't say the same for Paul Satmary, though. The German already dropping back early on.
Yeah, these walls can definitely be a race ender, not from the fact that you take damage per se, but definitely from the fact that you're going to lose the draft, and then you're all on your own. The cars are just going to eat you up for the rest of the race. So it was lucky for him to be able to catch the tail end of that pack and keep alongside there. But as for Paul, his demise, I think his fate has been sealed by the fact that he lost the draft pack here. As we begin to stretch out a little more single file, I think we're going to see that outside line start dropping a few cars as people are going to start falling single file. And we're going to start seeing that lead pack fall out a little bit as we got the 3 leaders going to the outside line, which is an interesting move coming out of 3 and 4.
Brian Dees leading making the decision to take the top 3 up high. Tony Hilbert's going to cut down low. Looking like Brian Dees trying to control both lanes of the racetrack at the moment. Again, risky business to do in Gen 4 racing at a track that is as bumpy and as volatile as this older scan of Daytona from 2008. As Tony Hilbrand continues to work that bottom side. The 81 of Dustin Pink will fight his way up to 4th, and we're side by side once again for the race lead. A couple cars to the tail end that notice in particular, Michael Ashmore started to lose a bit of touch, and has Ashmore already lost the draft?
Yeah, I think he's just barely at the edge there, that he's going to really have to work hard, pick that perfect line to keep right on the tail end of the guys in front of him, and he might be able to catch that. But, man, you got to really keep it nice and tight and have really great driving skills to be able to keep a draft like that because this track is so bumpy. That car just does not go where you think you want it to go, which makes me think that Dees is actually smart being out there on the outside going through these turns, because if you're down there on the bottom, you not only have to worry about that apron on your inside, but you also have to worry about the car to the outside. So you really don't have much wiggle room, especially when they're trying to side draft you going through these turns.
Sean Brigg going to try to look 3 wide up the middle for the number 55. He's taking it that one to the inside. The 3 bobbling all sorts of loose as Mike Messengill almost getting up and into the rest of the pack. That could have been a hairy moment. So the 3 car just barely getting that machine back underneath him. We still got 1 car tucked up in the middle, and I believe that is Paul Wilson, I want to say, that's ripping the middle line. No, that is I think that is not Paul Wilson, but it's somebody, the number 9 car of Bridger Olsen, charging through the middle pack all by himself.
Hey, I've never seen a middle car actually make progress through a pack like this. You have the draft on either side, and that person sinks like a rock. This is the first time I think I've ever seen a car actually go fight for the lead after taking charge through the middle of the pack. This is an amazing sight that I think is very rare, that you will hardly ever see again.
That's why they call these cars the golden years of NASCAR, right? It's because you can actually make moves like that. Trying to do that in a Gen 6 or a Gen 7 car, unheard of. You can still do that in Xfinity cars and even in the truck series, right? You can't do that in Cup cars anymore. And although he was able to get it sort of, he's going to fall back to second here as Brian Dees takes that run around the outside. That car down to the apron. Matthew Chastain did not make the starting call. He now enters this race 8 laps down.
Yeah, and he's going to lose this draft too. If he could have timed it just a little bit better to where he was meeting them on the backstretch, he may have been able to carry around the track with these guys. But unfortunately for him, he's going to lose that draft, and then he's going to be almost a roadblock here on this track for the rest of these drivers, which may make it interesting for us as spectators to be able to watch them try and maneuver around him. But unfortunate for him. The other thing I was noticing too with these guys is, usually it's ill-advised to go 3 wide so early in the race, but these guys are so good at being able to control their cars in this league that we're still green flag, and we've seen 4 or 5 3 wide encounters already.
Oh yeah, it has been. To say it's been a bit of an intense drive has been an understatement. I mean, these guys do not know when to quit, and you have to wonder if already we're seeing some of these folks starting to think about pit stops. 75% fuel tank limitations. Now, in the Gen 7 cars, that would put you at about 30 laps-ish of fuel. It's not the same fuel tanks, though, that they work for the Gen 4 cars. The fuel numbers right now, one of the great unknowns for us working into this race. Even the drivers weren't sure how the fuel numbers were going to stack up. Based on our practice win, I don't think a lot of them got enough of a run to be able to really tell for sure.
Yeah, no, my little bit of practice time I got just to see how these cars handled on this track, it was not good. You have old engines with old technology and, gas guzzling tanks. And so I think they were saying something around 25 laps we'll expect to see some pit stops. So we'll have to see how that plays out, and that'll kind of give us the idea of what we're going to expect to see from these drivers as we go around. But here we are, lap 10, still green flag underway with Benjamin Lacey on board right now. And, these guys are fighting tight. It's really cool to see with a track like this and with these cars, how bumpy it is going on right now. Like, you got to imagine as the driver, you're white knuckling that steering wheel and just praying that it stays clean for you up front.
It does a good job on showing just how intense this track is. I mean, look at how much the head is bouncing around when you're going around here. Now, obviously, the cameras that the drivers actually utilize a lot more stable, right? But that is what it would genuinely look like if you're looking out of the front windshield on one of these things in the real world on a track like this. It's not an easy feat, and I don't think you can really get a proper appreciation for how bumpy this track is until you get that driver's eye view.
Yeah, definitely. And as a person that enjoys sim racing in this older track combination, I know I've ran it many times. It's definitely skill to be able to handle these bumps extremely well. And the older the cars are, the more they struggle to handle these bumps. So you get in that 87 car, and it's a handful to try just keeping it straight around the track. And these guys are doing a brilliant job of keeping it too wide all the way around the track, proving me wrong that it was going to single file out early on, and showing that the true talent of these cars, of these drivers in these cars. And I'm sure as a driver right now, they're just loving this over the Gen 4 or the Gen 7 car.
I know I'm certainly enjoying this a lot more. We can actually go double file now. That was, I think, one of my big gripes with the, it still is one of my big gripes with the Gen 7 cars. I mean, all the Super Speedway races, you're side by side until you get to your first fuel run. But after that, it's just single file the rest of the time. And that's exactly what happened in last season's opener. We got one caution early on, and then they had themselves with a long green flag run. After the first round of pit stops, there was not a single on-track overtake that was actually side by side like we see now, unless it was one train swallowing up a slower car until we got a second yellow flag. The racing leaves something to be desired of the Gen 7 cars and Super Speedways. There's no two ways about it, and this Gen 4 car knows how to deliver.
Oh yeah, this Gen 4 car brings back so many memories of my childhood and watching these guys race around here. I thought a couple guys were getting ready to dip off into the pit lane, but they were just getting a little lower to try and get some extra speed around the track. So, and the bumps in and of themselves could have just sent them there unintentionally. But it's such a great time watching these old Gen 4 cars go around this track, and watching these guys masterclass these cars as they continue around the track. And honestly, Bridger Olsen, man, I'm still impressed. That guy went through the middle of the pack and still found his way to the front, and he's still fighting for a podium position right now.
Yeah, Bridger Olsen, one of the drivers that we know has a lot of pace. And now, granted, super speed racing, they tend to call it more of a crapshoot. But, I mean, you don't get to the front without nothing, right? And you saw that really bold three-wide move he made to try to put himself into the top 5, which is what part of what sees him now battling for this race lead at the head of this field. Bridger Olsen, if he sticks around, I could genuinely tout him as being one of the title contenders for this race that can take a fight to Benjamin Lacey.
Oh yeah, for sure. And another one too that impressed me from last season that I'm having high expectations for is Dalton Kilroe, sitting third right now. That guy, he didn't quite get the dice to roll his way last season, but I'm really expecting Dalton Kilroe to actually show up and like be able to get those lucky breaks to be able to give himself that opportunity to be there at the end in the top 4 for fighting for a championship. So I'm really excited to see what Kilroe has. And another person that I'm kind of keeping an eye on this season is Hilbrands as well, because Hilbrands had a lot to say about the Gen 4 cars and how he's confident in driving this car. And so far he's proven it right. He's sitting in 4th position.
Tony Hilbrands is a driver that even impressed last season as well. I know Austin, we touted him as being one of the most improved drivers of the season. The start of his season wasn't really anything to write home about, though you were catching up on last season as well over the last few days or so. But near the end, I mean, he was putting together some absolutely phenomenal runs, finishing on the podium, showing he's got the pace to compete with the best of the best. He has been a driver that has really impressed us with how much he has improved. He can only continue to go up from here. That 92 car trying to push Bridger Olsen to the lead, but pushing is always a risky task here at a track like this. I think you're right, though. I think Kilroe could also be a driver that we see with some possibility. It's a shame Kilroe had to miss a few of those races last week, and others had misfortune go his way. Who knows what would have happened if he made the playoff field.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how it goes this season as they're catching a slow car that's about ready to go a lap down here, maybe multiple laps down, because I believe this. Oh, as he almost slides back onto the track. At least he did the due diligence of getting himself down there, but he's
going to lose it here.
Oh, he's going to lose it. I think this will keep it going green for now, and I really appreciate the attempt at getting himself out of the racing circuit, but man, that was a dangerous move, going that much speed down to an apron through 3 and 4. Man, it's that car is just not going to handle like that. That no banking and that high of speed. This car just does not appreciate that apron. So lucky save for him, and I'm glad that we were able to keep that green. It looked like it was about to be a dangerous move.
We believe less than 10 laps away, I think, from the pit stop window opening up. So we could be seeing some drivers in pits for too long and right into the outside wall.
Yeah, Britt. I don't know what he was doing there. He must have just hit a bump wrong. I know these cars obviously will want to try and push towards the wall when you hit a bump wrong and going in through these turns. So uncharacteristic mistake from Sean Britt for sure, as he is generally a little bit higher in the standings every race. I'm kind of used to seeing him more up there, considering that he was in the fight for the championship last year. He's probably not exactly happy right now with where he's sitting.
I think we can cut Sean Britt a little bit of slack, though, in terms of the actual driver standings. I mean, you look at this track, right? Where are you supposed to go when you're this far back in the pack? You're just waiting to see if something's going to go awry. I do want to try to get a look at the right-hand side, because it looked to me like he had really scraped up that right door. Something feels. You got a good look here. Oh, yeah, look at that paint job. He really tanked that wall.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm actually surprised that he was able to get out of that and then keep up with the pack. We saw earlier, if you hit that wall wrong and you're stuck there, you can lose that pack real quick. And once you lose that pack, your day is done. So really good job by Sean to be able to keep it with the pack. And I'm sure, Daytona's a great race. There's a lot of strategy that's involved. That's not just about where you're at right now, but you can definitely play the chess game to leapfrog your way up into the right position at the right time. And I know Sean Britt, one of the things he does well is pits well. So we'll have to see if he does a good job at hitting those brakes. I'm sure we'll see a handful of speeding penalties, knock on wood, but he may get a couple positions just through attrition through those speeding penalties. So we'll have to see how Sean Britt does as we get ready to go through these pit cycles here.
If there's one thing this league usually gives us something to talk about around the pit stop window, it's actual pit entry. I mean, these guys, every race it feels like, there's always somebody that makes a botched entry. At the Atlanta race last year, the top 3 all got speeding penalties, pitting on 3 separate laps, one after the other. It was insane. Brian Dees and Dalton Kilroy, I know, are the 2 drivers that are more notorious for having them, for having those pit stop errors, especially on entry. The Richmond race last year, Kilroy went face first into the actual pit barrels itself. So it's a possibility, especially at a racetrack where it's so hard to get down to pit road. I mean, I used to say, you know, getting down to pit road isn't hard. It's dodge everyone around you, right? Well, now getting down to pit road is hard because you can barely slow it down in time.
Yeah, no kidding. And let's say you, for instance, you do lock up those brakes and you end up off the track for whatever reason, then you can count yourself getting another penalty that isn't even, as we got a car making it go 3 wide as the track or the pack tries to get around that car. And they did a brilliant job of trying to keep the guy out of the contention of creating an incident there, as we got a driver going down on the apron right here through the tri-oval. That's the number 12
Chastain.
Of Chastain that's down on the apron right now. So trying to get out of the way, but man, those apron moves can be dangerous. As we're 3 wide in the second row here, coming out of the turn.
And
we're gonna.
Multiple cars around. Lacey spins into the infield. Caution is out for the first time. I think a single car spin for that one,
yeah.
Which is incredible.
I was getting ready to call a bunch of cars that were going to get taken out there, but man, what an amazing spin by Benjamin Lacey. Not very often do you say that was a brilliant crash, but man, that was a great effort for everybody to dodge the car that was literally sideways down this backstretch when you're going 200 miles an hour, and to have everybody dodge him. Not a single car touched him.
It was lucky the car didn't blow over as well. Look how the roof flaps aren't deploying either on that car as it slides down. And does he find the wall? Just kisses it.
Yeah, that's disappointing that it was such an amazing acrobatic move of dodging it that he ends up with the wall kiss. But it looks like the 74 probably was going for a push there. But with the bumps in this track, it's so hard to get a good push because you're never really square with the bumper. And with these cars too, you notice that the hood is actually very sharp angle to that rear bumper. So you'll actually see those cars actually get under the bumper, and they can actually lift those back tires and cause somebody to go loose by turning into them at just the wrong angle. So you have to be very, very careful with how you do it. As we get this on board here of just missing him. What a brilliant drive. I love seeing those near misses. It just goes to show you how much practice these guys have at wreck avoidance, and I'm glad to see that everybody's going to get away with that. And that does bring up the next question. We are doing one fast repair in this league this year, right?
I would have to consult the rule book on that again, but I believe you are correct.
Okay, so, the good thing and the bad thing as we are going through our pit stop cycle here under caution is that, you get those guys out there that think, I got to get out of jail free card, so I'm going to be racing with my elbows out. But then at the same time, you get those moments where, you get that unfortunate spin or just some simple mistake happens and you really wish you had a second chance to survive. And, I don't think Benjamin Lacey will at all be taking the fast repair for this pit stop cycle, considering how little actually happened. But in a future instance, that may have been very beneficial for him to redeem himself from that spin in that just a couple laps ago.
I know I certainly would have taken fast repair. You don't have to if you got no damage on the car, or next to no damage on the car. The caution lap's so long, you have a lot of time to get that damage repaired. Save that fast repair when you really need it later down the line when that motor expires after a big wreck. We're 25 laps in, 75 to go this time by. You're watching the High Tide Racing League Admin Race Designs Cup Series for their season opener, with the SimWrapMarket 250. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Green Flag TV. Working through turn numbers 3 and 4. We'll restart this race on lap 27. Coming to the close of our first caution for a single car spin to the inside of the back straightaway. Benjamin Lacey got hooked by the 74 machine of Matthew Johnson. My name is Will Rempel and Josh Baird. We're getting set to go back to Green Flag Racing with the Team MFRD on the front row.
Yeah, Team MFRD is really showing up tonight with D's in first and Marasco in second. You know, MFRD is kind of one of those cars you're used to seeing as we're getting ready to go green flag here at old school Daytona with the old school cars. And I am excited to see what this next stint of green flag racing looks like. It seems like that they did a really good job. I'm very surprised with this being the first race at this track. With these cars, at how well they handled it and how long the green flag run lasted. But we did notice that 25 laps into the stint was about when the caution flag came out. So that was almost perfect timing for a pit stop.
So we're not expected to see these guys into pit road again until about the halfway mark of this race. We'll hightail it down the back straightaway. We get up to speed as we work into turn number 3. Brian Dees with the outside, with the inside. Ty Marasco on the outside. Kilrow and Nickerson being the two pushers. And Nick Nickerson taking a step away from the big red propane team that he usually runs with, running the old Coors Light paint scheme. That is a throwback if ever I did see one.
Oh yeah, that brings back so many memories. Seeing that Coors Light paint scheme. I think I see another old Tony Stewart Home Depot car a little further back. So I'm glad to see some of these guys throwing back the liveries as well with these cars. It just reminds me of so many things. I actually have a Gen 4 Ward Burton model, diecast model, actually sitting just a couple feet away from me.
I believe this is Christopher Bassinger that was running that 20 Home Depot machine, although scored as the 14 on the racetrack, which is why there's a discrepancy there. But the one car that is got the correct number, though, while still running the throwback paint scheme, Connor Gibson, running the old Jeff Burton / Robbie Gordon throwback scheme for the singular self-service car from the early 2000s as well.
Oh yeah, and I love seeing that they have people are out there with the Mopars and you know, some of the other old cars from that generation. It was a lot of fun seeing that. You know, it was always, I'm sure everybody was a little sad when Dodge left the scene. Hopefully someday it would be our dream to get Dodge back into the scene with their Mopars, but we can at least live the dream here on iRacing with this High Tide Racing League. And man, these guys putting on a show today. You know, going back to the paint schemes, I always love those MF paint schemes. They always stick out. So, look at that, the old Dale Earnhardt throwback. Can't quite get the number, but we'll at least take the look for sure. With the number 12 here of who is the number 12? I'm still getting used to the numbers.
Chastain,
okay.
Running the old number 12 car, but the unfortunate thing for Chastain is he's about to go another lap down, and this is not what he was needing. His day goes from bad to worse. The report came in from Race Control. Remember, this car came down into pit road on lap 19, but was given a speeding penalty while he was down in pit road as well. So that is why we see him now so far down and about to lose another lap.
Yeah, those speeding penalties, it'll definitely ruin your day for sure, especially if we get hopefully a green flag run at this next pit flag or this next pit cycle, because as he's into the wall, and that just goes from bad to worse. You know, his day's already halfway done with falling back like that, but just adding insult to injury with the wall collision. But anyway, I hope we go to green flag stops this second time around, because I really want to see. That's kind of where the great drivers separate themselves from the good drivers, and so I'm excited to see how those interactions go as we progress towards that 50 lap mark.
You know, I think these drivers are really looking to prove you wrong. I mean, you predicted we're going to get single filed out relatively quickly. We're going to be seeing a lot of field separation pretty quickly. They've been bunched up double file pretty much this entire race. They have never broken more than 3 or 4 cars off of this leading group, so they are really looking to put on a show here tonight for the season opener. And hey, I'm all for it. I mean, already this has been miles better than the last race we had that had about like a 30% higher car count. I mean, that last race had 30 cars, but they were all running single file most of this race. That's not been the case here tonight.
You know, another thing that's impressed me with these guys too is well, so far, we better knock on wood before there's a commentator's curse, but nope, not very many cautions. I know last time we raced here, there was what, nearly 13 cautions that that plagued the race because of, yeah, it was closer to 10 at least. I'm sure of it. But I'm not a betting man, so I won't bet on it. But I'm almost certain that there was the high caution race for Daytona and towards the middle stint. So to see these guys with this bumpy track with these older cars to be able to keep it under green is an outstanding feat. And yes, they did prove me wrong, and I'm very glad they did, because I was looking forward to an action-packed race, and that is what we are getting tonight.
Marasco and Dees have been in complete control of both lines. They have been really looking to take control of this race in style, putting the MF Racing Designs crew, the main sponsor for this race, running 1-2 in both lanes. I mean, that's got to feel good for Mikael Falk, the driver that, of course, is, the person that is, of course, sponsoring the HTRL series and keeping the lights on over here. Oh, a little bit of a blink there from Marasco. That's less than ideal, especially if he flashes in. And I tell you what, he's blinking in when Olsen is dangerously close to him. One of these times, he's going to get turned.
Yeah, being on the outside of Daytona, restrictor plate track, and blinking is the worst possible nightmare you could come up with when it comes to blinking, because you have to keep it tight in order to keep up front. And that guy behind you is just, his knuckles are probably as white as can be as he's holding that wheel tightly to make sure that he doesn't end up inside that car as it blinks in and out. But it seems like Ty Marasco, oh, as I say that, he blinks out again. But, you know, it's a really good job of Nick Nickerson to try and maintain that, because you do not want to end up inside that car when he blinks back in, or you'll end up with a lot of problems. So I imagine what's going to happen here is, yep, as I expected, they're going to dip down and
look out!
As there's a door check.
Oh,
and there's another door check.
There we
another
go.
Person get turned, and here comes the big one.
Multiple cars getting collected off of turn numbers 3 and 4. One driver slams the inside wall right down by pit road, and that is a hard lick, and that was the 74 Matthew Johnson, the driver that caused caution number 1, that I think took the worst of it.
Yeah, it's really hard when you go 3 wide in these cars. I was super impressed earlier when they were able to pull it off, but when you get a guy that starts blinking, especially at the front of the pack, those guys are going to look to ditch him to continue on, because they don't want to be involved in that wreck, which sent him back, sent him into the wall. As he came down, 74 also got involved with that, and unfortunate day for both of those guys to have to be involved in that wreck. I didn't quite get to see all of the other cars that got involved in that, but here in the replay, we're going to probably catch a good glimpse of all the guys that got caught up in that incident. I see Benjamin Lacey sitting there, and Michael Thorpe Jr., or is that 24 is Paul Zath Murray, and here he goes into the wall there, and then he takes out those guys below.
31 car got
That's Sean Britt. I see Sean Britt.
Man.
Yep.
Matthew Johnson went for a much bigger ride than we thought. And yikes! I think that was, the 3 car of Michael Messengill that had to kind of escape down low and only just barely got through that wreck, although he did get a pretty big piece of it. We'll get some more looks at that in a moment, but we got cars down in the pit road.
Oh, this is an interesting strategy call. I didn't really expect these guys to come down pit road. Just a handful of laps into that.
Kind of get an extra stopping while you can. I mean, no reason to kind of falter, right? I mean, you got to make up strategy wherever you can, and we're about a third of the way through the fuel window. I think that's far enough. Though, most notably, not a lot of drivers taking tires, only fuel only for the most of the packs. They're setting themselves up for a fuel run.
Yeah, that makes sense with you have what the limited fuel sets that this or tire sets rather that this series has. That's where I was kind of confused of what the strategy was here. But if everybody's just taking fuel, that makes more sense to me that you just want to top off because I expect us to maybe go for another green flag run here in a bit. With the unfortunate blinking situation, that's kind of a unique situation. I wouldn't say that's a driver error per se. So I would expect to have some more green flag opportunities once we get back going green here. But yeah, when you're in that position as the driver number 2 in the second row right there, with the number 2 car Nick Nickerson, you're just gonna get down and let Ty Marasco drop like a rock because you do not want to be a part of that when he blinks in. So he caught that. He caught the rock. Oh, and I never noticed that the 83 car of
Yeah.
Jason Greenwell actually tagged him, which is what caused him to go into the wall. So maybe just a bump. It's this track. You're gonna bounce around those turns. I don't. Greenwell's a pretty good driver, so I don't imagine that it was, failure, a skill problem, if you will. It was more just the bump probably caught him up and sent Ty, unfortunately, into the wall, which is what makes 3 wide racing so difficult here.
There's a few pretty nasty licks into the inside wall as well. We'll try to get, I want to get 2 more looks at this one before we get set to go back to green flag racing. I think it was more Hilbrands that put in 3 wide that really kind of caused a lot of this. I'm not saying Hilbrands is at fault. Let's get that clear right now. Hilbrands was not at fault for this incident, but I definitely think him putting it 3 wide is what kind of pushed Marasco up and out and what made that such an awkward moment. Let's get a ride on board with Matthew Chastain. I think you're going to have a really good look at this on board. Watch at how close he comes to slamming this inside wall.
Yeah, that was a good move by Chastain. Oh, that's good driving right there. He must have a dirt background to be able to control a slide like that and save himself from total destruction there. Definitely would have been using the fast repair had he kept that trajectory going. So nice for him to save that fast repair for another day. But yeah, that was a very unfortunate incident. It took quite a few guys down to get some repairs done. So a little bit of a field shakeup. Let's see here. Obviously, with the MF RD guys being 1-2 for that whole time, now you kind of opened up the field for more of a shakeup for like having Hilbrands up at second. I feel like that's kind of the closest we've seen him today.
Matthew Chastain has been given a 1-lap stop and hold by race control for wrecking under caution. So, evidently there was some other secondary incident that took place. I don't know if you were able to go back and take a look at that, see if we can find out where that happened at. But, yeah, Chastain going to be forced into pit road for an extra lap, and that might be enough to call it quits. He's already almost like 10 laps down.
Yeah, unfortunate. It's insult to injury when you wreck under caution. Not very often do you run into situations like that. So, it looks like we're getting ready to go green flag. Maybe I can take a peek back here to see if I can catch where Chastain kind of wrecked under caution, but doesn't seem like I'm having much luck finding that. So, anyway, I'll pass it back to you while I try and take a look at that.
While he tries to hunt down the mystery of Chastain, Brian Dees taking the race lead with Tony Hilbrands to his outside. Dalton Kilroe and Nick Nickerson are the 2 main pushes as behind tail down the back straightaway. Oh, more trouble, the 52. Spinning to the inside. Steve Ulrich goes around. No caution on the back straight. He'll go for a 360 loop, bring it to a stop, but so far down to the concrete pad. We'll keep this race green, and we'll look at that in a moment once everything else settles down up front.
Yeah, that was really good of him to keep it down off the track so that way these guys could keep it green. Here we go again. Commentator's curse, nearly causing another caution. Looks like
Thorpe just ran him over.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that was kind of odd. I don't know if he lifted or because that seemed quite a bit of overspeed that Thorpe had on him to get him to turn like that, or to hit him that hard to get him to turn. Because I know when I've tested these cars out, they can take a pretty good lick on the backside for a push, but that seemed like
the
quite a
corner's
bit of
over a bump.
overspeed. That's true. That's true. It could have just been bad timing for sure. So we are back up too wide, quite a few cars deep here. It seems like these guys are starting to settle into a groove, hopefully. So I'm glad to see that. As far as Chastain goes, for some reason I can't find his incident, so we'll have to chalk that up to we don't know what happened. But here we go, getting ready to go into turn 1 and 2. It looks like Hilbrand's living up to the hype that he said he was going to be great at these Gen 4 cars, and here he is sitting at the front row outside.
Tony Hilbrand's working to the top side of the racetrack. Brian Dees, though, still maintaining control down on the bottom as well. The 41 trying to push the back bumper of the 17. Bridger Olsen is also in the fray. And the Mopar Dodge trying to make a lunge to the front of this field while everyone else just behind still running mostly nose to tail, but there's a lot more separation already on this restart, and I think a lot of these drivers may have learned their lesson, or they may have been given a talking to by race control as well. There is manual race control now in this series, so perhaps a bit of a word or two and has caused these guys to see some sense, as there's a lot more, I think, a lot more give and a lot less take so far in this restart.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I think that people don't really think about too is mental fatigue. This isn't a terribly long race, so mental fatigue may not be as big of an issue. But as we got door checks going on, second row, looks like they managed to sort it out without any incident. But anyway, when your first race of the season, you got these older cars, older track, you're going to have some fatigue, and a lot of it's going to be mental with it being sim racing and all. But man, you also have to wrestle. You get some of those heavier wheels and some of those direct drive wheels, and you're probably wrangling these cars around this track.
So we will not be able to get an actual look at it at this point. Too much time has passed. We'd waste too much time actually trying to hunt it down. But we have gotten some more clarification on what that incident actually was. Immediately after the yellow flag came out, Chastain did not check up in time for the field when catching the pace car and ran over 3 to 4 cars. So that was why he was given the 1-lap stop and hold. That was only a few seconds after the yellow flag itself actually came out, before the pit stops. That was when we were taking a look at that replay of that big one coming off of turn number 4. And that, I think, explains a lot about where that penalty comes from.
Yeah, I imagine that maybe he had a technical problem and didn't see the pack coming up, maybe blinked in. And as far as my replay looked, it looked like he was blinking in and out pretty bad. So must be having connectivity issues as I see him disconnect from the race, 11 laps down at this point. So I imagine that unfortunately for him, it just was not his day, and I hope that I believe this is his first race in the High Tide Racing League. So there's plenty of other opportunities for him to be able to recover from that. So it's unfortunate. I know I've had those situations where all the cars disappeared on the track, and then all of a sudden they pop back in, and you can't stop.
So Bridger Olsen and Brian Dees continue to remain line astern. A big stack up on the inside line nearly sends the 86 into the back of the 83. So we nearly had a caution there between Paul Wilson and Jason Greenwell. Right now, though, Brian Dees, who has been so loyal to that inside lane all race long, jumping to the top for the first times all race long. And then, of course, the 9 of Bridger Olsen also in the fray. He's now trying to gun for the lead in the Mopar Dodge.
Yeah, Bridger Olsen's taking the bottom line at this point, and it looks like he's holding his own in the turns. I've been kind of trying to check out the two packs, because generally you want to be in the longer line, right? Like you want to have those guys, you want to try and pull for those guys to be in your line, and that generally comes from being able to, who can keep it straighter in the turns and keep it tight, keep the pack tighter is usually who gets your vote for which pack they stick in. And then as the race progresses too, it's all about picking the strategy of when do you want to bounce between the two lines, right? You don't want to stay in that bottom line the whole race. You're just never going to get any position. So at some point you're going to have to decide, do I want to be on the top line or the bottom line? And it seems like right now, it almost seems like, especially seeing how Dees is progressing, that the top line seems to be the preferred line for the drivers.
You know, that top lane's been carrying quite a bit of speed with it, and that is a trend that is in fact carried over to the Gen 7 cars of the like, right? The fact that the outside line can pull a lot of speed with it on occasion, but you got to really know how to rip that outside lane. From my perspective, it looks like both lanes are about even right now. I mean, there's no one advantage to one lane or another. The only difference is who's pushing who on those lanes is making all the difference. The 52 car going to go a lap down. That is Steve Ulrich, who will lose the lead lap.
Yeah, unfortunate for Steve. I don't know what got him to lose the draft like that. It was probably one of the earlier incidents today. Good job for the pack to be able to get around him without any incident. That's typically what you see from a guy that's getting ready to go a lap down. He'll just hang out on the high line and let them pass him on the inside there. Those diving down to the aprons in the middle of a race is a pretty risky adventure. It's unfortunate that he also seemed to lose enough speed with this pack that he also didn't get a tag on to the end of the pack to be able to keep with them. So unfortunate for him that he's gonna end up probably going another lap down.
Well, this race will continue in full force as everything is looking fairly organized at this point. You've got 18 cars that are packed up line astern in this leading pack, possibly 19 or 20, kind of depends on if you count the cars that are fully laps down. But in terms of lead lap cars, 18 are currently in this pack. You've got 2 that have dropped off of the lead pack. Those are Scott Schuer and Eddie Hagge. Hagge of which is, big trouble coming out of turn number 4. The 86 of Paul Wilson going around. He's going to tank the outside wall. Marasco going around as well. And that is right at halfway, and a couple other cars involved as well.
Yeah, big wreck. It was, I'll have to see the replay there to see exactly what caused that. But yeah, car sideways when you're going 200 miles per hour is pretty difficult to dodge. So it usually creates for some big accident. Ooh, just turn 4 bump there. Yeah, you can't really push these cars in the turns. Generally, any car is not going to go well when you try and push them with the turns. But when you got those bumps going on, you're going to see a lot of cars that are not going to appreciate that push there. So it's just unfortunate that he may have checked up just a little bit, and it was probably an unintentional push, but nonetheless, it cost a few guys a couple fenders.
Paul Wilson took the worst of that one. He was the only car that really went fully around along with Ty Marasco. The 83 car did manage to actually save his machine for the most part. So it was a good job of the 83 car of Jason Greenwell to really save that from the inside. We'll get a look on board with the back bumper of Jason Greenwell as well. And this will kind of tell the story. I think you're right. The combination of that bump and an involuntary push really had a hand to play in that. Could have been worse, and, could have been better as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure some of those guys at the back are just getting a little frustrated at this point. Like, oh, man, I can't catch a break because, in tight pack racing like this, it's just, when you're that far back, you're always worried about that smoke you see coming up because it's like, I got about a 50% chance of making it through this. But, yeah. We'll just have to see what shakes up because of this. I heard Ty Marasco getting involved in this, so we'll have to see if he can recover. I know that considering he was second just a few laps ago and dropped quite a bit back to that, hopefully that pit stop or hopefully that damage doesn't do too much to affect his race and he can get back up there where he was in the earlier runnings of this race.
Caution flag number 3 on the Speedway. We are halfway home. 50 down, 50 to go. Brian Dees still leads at Daytona. Coming off of turn numbers 3 and 4 with less than 50 laps to go. The pace car will take this field down and make that sharp left-hand turn into pit road. Lap 53, we go back to green flag racing.
Yeah, coming off the start-finish line there, I noticed that the bottom line is significantly longer than the top line, probably due to the cars being lapped down and stuff. But so we'll expect to see maybe a little difference in racing styles here, as it looks like Dees jumps to the top line right off the bat. And it looks like the number 2 of Nick Nickerson's being hung out to dry by people down here. So, oh, here we go. We got somebody jumping down to join the team here. But quite a surprise to see so many guys jump up, which brought the 2 wide racing back to normal. But 17 of D's is taken off down 3 and 4, and close behind him is sorry, I'm not catching the number of Olsen.
And Bridger Olsen working to the inside line to try and make something happen. Oh, we got it at the 31, and Connor Gibson scrapes the outside wall. Meanwhile, I think it was one of these lap cars somewhere in the mix here that went down to the inside and nearly found the inside wall. That was Dakota Knoll that nearly had a problem to the inside. But right now, Nickerson driving to the lead alongside Brian Dees. And we've seen a lot of split calls on this last round of pit stops. Oh, well, there we go. The 86 around again, slides up into traffic. And that is a hard hit into the outside wall for Paul Wilson.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. It must have been some sort of tag from the person behind him, because it seemed like it was on a straightaway that he's begun the spin. So I'm interested to see the replay on this. It looks like, I believe was that the number 8 on the inside wall? Yeah, he's just had an unfortunate night. I feel like every other wreck we've seen him be a victim of collecting drivers. So unfortunate. I think that's day done for him, unless he's still got a fast repair there. But looking back at this replay, yep, he just got under him. Oh, I think he might even
Marasco.
Yep. Unfortunately, when you got those blinking drivers on super speedway tracks, it's tough.
Holy cow! Did you see Steve Holbrook go underneath the 86?
Yeah, that's what I love about these Gen 4 cars. They have like a natural ramp design to them. Yeah, Ty Marasco blinked, and yeah, it caused him to check up. And wow,
I think it went right underneath him.
Goodness,
I don't think he touched him. He touched the 5 of Knoll.
Yeah, let's get it on board of that. I want to see that from his perspective. I'm sure he was.
Oh, that was the lick for Dakota Knoll. We'll back this up a little bit further. So this is what Dakota Knoll saw flying up on the scene, and ouch.
Yeah, he's just.
Yikes, that is a hard hit, and then slid all the way to the inside, and he's going to stuff it into the guardrail, and that's what broke the motor.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If he has a fast repair, he's definitely going to be using it that time. But nowhere you can really go in that kind of situation going that fast. But here we go. We get to see the UFO take flight.
Oh, my word.
Goodness.
It took the roof camera off, but I don't know. I'm still holding the claim. I don't think they ever touched. I mean, it took the roof camera off, but
I agree with that. I think it ended up being he actually cleared him by an inch.
We'll get a better look at this one. This is slowed down to 4 times speed. Fourth of the speed, so a quarter speed as Allwork arrives on scene, and well, not quite the best of looks there. We'll back this up, and
that might make Green Flag TV's top 10.
Just barely clipped the roof, but you know what? I mean, no damage. I think you can call that a win-win.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's going to be thanking his lucky stars tonight after this race, because that saved him at least a fast repair, if not saved him his chance at being able to continue on for the rest of this race. And I know I would be thanking my lucky stars if I got myself into a situation like that where, the guy in front of me, the number 8, just ends up having to tow with the amount of damage, and here I am still sitting on the track. Yeah, there's nothing the 86 could have done there. You know, I would definitely be checking up too if I had a car blink like that in front of me, and then you know, the guy behind him had no clue that he would be checking up. So unfortunate situation, but you know, technical difficulties happen in real life just like they happen in sim racing.
The 86 car, by the way, for that one, reported from race control, only a minute and 45 of optional repairs for that wreck. In what world does
Wow.
that make any kind of sense?
Yeah, no kidding. Where did he get away with that for optional repairs? That definitely
It's,
looked a lot more tragic to me.
it's one of the luckiest wrecks I think I've ever seen right there with that.
No kidding. But yeah, anyway, with these, hopefully with that optional repair, it's a little more important to have optional repairs in super speedway like this because you know, you have to worry about your aerodynamic efficiency. So I'm sure I would be taking that, not enough to go a lap down, but as much time as I can spend in the pits as possible to make sure that all those dents and dings get knocked out, so I can go back to keeping up with the rest of the pack.
Working down the back straight with 1 lap left to green. We'll restart on lap number 58. And, well, the caution's starting to mount in this race, but I can guarantee you they're going to be mounting a hell of a lot more tomorrow night for the OMSRL Truck Series, the Martinsville Speedway, when they swing out to the world's fastest paperclip at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday night. The Speed Tires Plus Cup Series will keep the short tracks. It's really short track week here on Green Flag TV, isn't it? The Speed Tires Plus Cup Series swinging out to Bristol, and then the TNGG IEL Truck Series making its run to Iowa coming on up. And I believe the ASRL Next Gen Cup Series is going to be in the Iowa Speedway on Sunday night this coming week as well. I stand corrected. They are in the Windy City of the Chicago Street Course. But if you like short tracks, well, this week's the week. 3 of them back to back to back with 2 truck races and 1 cup race to boot.
Yeah, Martinsville Speedway, huge favorite of mine. Went to a NASCAR race there quite a few years ago. Iowa Speedway is my hometown track, so big fan of Iowa Speedway. I'll definitely be tuning into that one as well. As the pace car dips off into the pit lane, we are getting ready to go green flag again after the 4th caution has flown. So here we go. Wow, quite a jump from D's getting out of the start-finish line there. Usually you don't see that from a super speedway, to get a large jump like that, and part of that is because when they get back around and the draft guys catch them, they're going to come up with a lot of overspeed.
It's one of the few tracks where a jump is actually a huge detriment on a restart than actually of assistance. But looking like the 41 Dalton Kilroy managed to get there first, so keeps these somewhat in check, but not before Nickerson got to the outside, and he's taking Bridger Olsen with him, the 2. Not out to make that look to the inside. So for man on the top, Dees drives back to the front, and right now, Brian Dees, I think your pole sitter, has really been one of the few consistent drivers that's always been up in the top 5 all race long, having never faltered for 1 lap.
Yeah, Dees has been putting on a masterclass today for super speedway racing. It's been impressive to watch. It seems like he picks the top line when he needs to. He picks the bottom line when he needs to. And honestly, a lot of the times at these super speedway tracks, when you're that guy in first place and you have commanding gap like this, a lot of credit goes to the guy that's actually behind you, because their ability to push you with the draft is also very key in your ability to push yourself around the speedway, because you get a guy behind you that's struggling with that, you're still going to sink like a rock, because the people with the good drafters behind them, the good pushers behind them, are going to have significantly more speed going down. But credit to Dees. He's been putting on an amazing performance, as we got number 86 with a green flag pit stop. It appears that Paul Wilson may have made it successfully, considering the woes that we have been expecting with the lack of brakes here, as he's serving a penalty, pass-through penalty, for an earlier incident.
Entering closed pits under that last caution was what he got that one for, and that was to try to fix all that damage repair under caution. 3 wide. Nickerson hung out to dry on the top shelf. Oh my goodness! A huge bobble down from the inside group as the 83 nearly hooked it hard to the inside wall. Richard Olsen maintains his run in the middle with Greenwell way down low. But Olsen, luckily with just a drive-through penalty, so if he gets a lucky caution, he will not lose the lead lap. He is still out there with about half a lap to spare.
Yeah, that's pretty lucky for him that he'll get that opportunity. He'll need a caution to come out quickly, though, because if this field catches him, they'll catch him quick. But, man, 3 wide still. Nick Nickerson really hanging it up there on that top line. Usually you see guys like this, and like we were talking about earlier with the newer generation cars, they just drop like a rock when they get hung out to dry there. But he's really giving them a run for their money and keeping it 3 wide. To see these guys closing the gap behind him, too, it looks like he's going to have a little bit of a tough time trying to get back into that outside line.
Well, these cars are, well, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here. They are aero-dependent, but not nearly as aero-dependent as today's cars, right? These cars do not have diffusers on them, for example. It makes it so much more possible to really rip the outside line with all the side force that these cars generate, but it also makes so you won't be dragging everyone else back with you. And now we've got a few other cars trying to open up that third group on the outside, as here comes the 52 of Steve Ulrich to try to give him a hand on, up on top.
Man, lap 62, and we're already talking about 3 wide. These guys are definitely giving us our money's worth tonight with the action, because that's quite a bit early to be trying to talk about 3 lanes. But, man, when you're Nick Nickerson, you're definitely trying to get it. Oh,
Oy!
As we got a guy spinning. It was the number 31, I believe, of Gibson. So it seems that we might still be going green flag. He might have spun down off the track enough to keep the caution from coming out. But that's what happens when you go 3 wide. He was a victim of being 3 wide on a bumpy track like this. These cars just shift enough with these bumps that you're going to expect to see doors get bumped and people getting shoved around. So
that bump.
he was just, yeah. Actually, that was surprisingly, it was just a tag from the rear. I kind of expected a side. Oh, as we got a yellow flag out further back in the field. Oh, another big one coming out of turn 4. It looks like
Dees
somebody
is
got
involved.
Oh no! We just got done talking about how great of a race Dees has been running today, and he ends up getting caught up in an incident. That's so unfortunate to see him. Doesn't appear to be a ton of damage, maybe some optional. So I expect him to go get that fixed. Maybe now's the time to use the fast repair with how fast and clean he's been racing so far. Or you just take the optional if it's necessary and get out there to save the fast repair for another day. But I imagine it's going to be a kill row tag. Yep. And just as much as you want to race close and race clean, it's really hard. You just get that one little shove in those turns with those bumps, and that rear end gets light and turns any driver around. It's unfortunate to see that happen.
It's a hard hit that Kilroe took up into the outside wall. That was a nasty little incident there. Tony Hilbrand's, I think, relatively got away with that unscathed, and he is your new race leader. And that was the hit that Kilroe took into the outside wall. Kind of scraped along it there with Sean Britt, and Jason Greenwell got a pretty hefty whack of this whole mess as well. There were quite a few cars that got collected, and not in a very good way as a result of all of this. Take a look from the grandstands coming at you, and then just a wild wreck. And Bridger Olsen took a bit of a hit with Greenwell as well.
Yeah, the spectators are going to be really impressed with that wreck. More Kilroe woes coming into this season. I know he's been a part of some unfortunate events getting into previous races last season. So unfortunate for him to be a victim of another one here. Hopefully he can recover from that quickly. I imagine with these fast repairs, if they're allowed, that he will quickly find his way back up to the front, along with the number 17 of Brian Dees.
We'll get a look from the air at part of what kind of started all this. And, I mean, to Kilroe's credit, I mean, Dees was a little bit out of line, but the bump there was never going to work. And there goes Greenwell around. The 2 of Nickerson took a bit of a whack as well. And Oh my goodness. There were, again, a few drivers that really had to kind of split the needle to avoid going around. And I believe that may have been Paul Satmary that had an unbelievably close call coming through all of this. He currently sits in the number 5 spot.
And to come out of the 5th place after all this is quite an amazing feat. That's the kind of reels that make the top 10 for iRacing's highlights. So amazing ability to avoid the wreck there. That was really good job at wreck avoidance for sure. But we're under our 5th caution now at lap 65. I imagine that it's because we're starting to see A, more aggressive drivers, but B, maybe some of that the rust coming out for the first race of the season.
I want to point out that Satmary as well, and in fact everybody inside the top 5, did not come down into pit under this latest yellow flag. There you can see kind of the strategy lengths. Everybody from 6th on down has come into pit under this latest yellow flag. That is interesting to me. So we're now on some split pit calls, and you wonder if everybody inside the top 5 is gambling that we're going to get a few more yellows here in quick succession.
Well, I can imagine at this point that they wouldn't be too far off base, just based on the first, I would say, 50 laps. We only had 1 or 2 cautions, and now we're sitting at 5th caution at lap 66. So I imagine we're going to see 1 or 2 more big ones as we come around this track. Unfortunately, just the nature of super speedway racing. Restrictor plate racing, it's tight, it's bumpy, and there's going to be elbows bumping as they try and fight for the race win. So they may be on par with those caution strategies. So I'm curious to see how they play out.
Kind of go over some of the the main schedule beats for the High Tide Racing and Racing Designs Cup Series. I mean, they've got a good schedule coming up. Lots of throwback tracks, I think, is critical here. Rockingham is next week. I think that's a very obvious choice, honestly, in these cars. Then Las Vegas, the old version of Phoenix, the old version of Texas, Richmond, Auto Club, Sonoma, Dover, the old version of Pocono, Martinsville, Talladega, Chicagoland, a track that I have not covered a race at in a long time, is finally back on the calendar. Kansas and Charlotte, the old version of Charlotte, of course, will end out the regular series season. Then it's a 7-race playoff format with rounds 12, 8, and 4. Critically, one of the things that I love about this series, they made it a rule. Well, a rule, quote unquote. If there is a possibility for it to be on a legacy layout, an older version of the track, they're going to do it.
Yeah, I like that theory, especially with these Gen 4 Cup cars. Those cars are kind of built for that as we get ready to go underway here on lap 67 of the High Tide Racing League race here today. Yeah, some of the legacy tracks, they're a lot of fun to watch, and you know, the bumpier surfaces and the creates more action, and you know, you'll start to see some of these guys really show their true skill going through those older layouts with these Gen 4 cars.
Huge field spread on this one. Look at how separated the pack is right now. I mean, everybody is being very calm and conservative. Tony Hilbrand's still leading, pushed by Benjamin Lacey, and Hilbrand's going to try to jump down, but the 74 is there, and Matthew Johnson, after being one of the main causes of caution number 1, is going to jump to the point.
What an impressive run for Johnson. It's amazing to me that he's actually out in the front after being involved in those cautions earlier on in the race, and seeing him take the lead down on the inside of the track there. I know Hilbrands is definitely going to be looking to fight for that position back. I know I saw a few guys hip check the wall out there and hopefully are going to keep it green for a little while longer, but here we are coming down the backstretch, and it's crazy to me to see that there's still 21 cars on the lead lap.
Oh yeah, the race has been really competitive tonight. Lots of cars still out on the lead lap. And because these cautions are so long, they have a lot of time to get damage repaired as Johnson clipping the apron with Nickerson, and that will allow Hilbrands to drive back around the top. Matthew Johnson has not had the best of starts in this race, right? He turned somebody to brand caution flag number 1. He found himself slamming into the inside wall in caution number 2 on the front stretch. We thought he wasn't going to be in it to win it, but look at him now, right up there at the front, really showing that anybody has a shot to win at the plate track.
That's what I love about these plate tracks is it's not really about there's obviously a lot of skill involved, and so I hope I don't catch myself saying this wrong, but it is a lot about strategy. So you can be in a position, right place, right time, and it's a chess match. It's all about timing your moves, being in the right lane at the right time, making those jumps, avoiding the accidents when you need to avoid them, and then stop and making sure your pit stops go flawlessly every time. So it's fun to see guys like that you weren't expecting to see at the front of the track at this point in the race, fighting for the race lead.
Racing action continuing on as Johnson driving to the bottom, back to the point. This field really started to bunch back up once again as he hightailed it down the back straightaway and towards turn numbers 3 and 4, on board with the driver of the 2 as he tries to give that shove to the back bumper of Matthew Johnson. And oh my gosh, you can really see how much these cars are wiggling around mid-corner. You even heard him lift there to try to avoid turning the leader.
Yeah, the wiggles on this track and the bumps and watching these guys go is absolutely amazing, because remember the fact that when you're in these restrictor plate tracks that you have to bump draft these guys and you have to stay tight. The tighter you stay, the ability to bump draft these guys down the straight is what causes the lines on the outside or the lines on the inside to go faster. So the ability to be able to do that all while trying to wrestle the bumps as we go 3 wide, and Nick Nickerson gets checked into the apron there, going down the backstretch, back to double filed out there for a second, but that was a sketchy move and great save by Nick Nickerson.
A good save indeed. 29 laps to go. We're entering the end game of this race here. Only one confirmed green flag pit stop window left before we're good to go to the end. And that window is going to open up here in about the next 3 to 4 laps on being safe to make it. In fact, if you do a lot of fuel saving, you probably could even make it to the end from here if you came down to pit road. That's going to make this last pit stop run even more interesting. If we do get another caution, that's it. We're not going to get green flag pit stops this race.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for green flag pit stops. I really think that these guys are going to make a very interesting finish if we can get through a green flag pit stop.
My
74
word.
getting a big bump and nearly takes out Hilbrands going out of that corner. Holy cow. But yeah, I'm hoping for green flag stops just because I think that's going to add a whole new dynamic to this race. We're going to see a lot of guys, maybe mid-pack, that jump to the front. We're going to see a guy up front, I can guarantee, that's going to get a speeding penalty as I curse probably one of these guys on the track. We'll find out later. Find out somebody that's going to get a speeding penalty, and their race is done.
The sun as well is beginning to crest towards the turn 1 horizon, which does now make you wonder as well, is the sun going to be getting into these drivers' eyes? Well, right on board with Paul Wilson here as he works his way around turn numbers 3 and 4. This is one of the big things. Look at that glare coming out of turn number 4. It's not too bad now. That's going to be right in their eyes by the time we get down to the checkered flag here.
Yeah, I just saw a peek of that sun glimpse into the driver's side view, and I remember, I think it was a beer league a couple weeks ago where the turn 1.
the Red Bull ring, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yep, and it literally blinded the guys. They couldn't see. They couldn't see, and they were rear-ending each other.
Caution.
Yep. Yeah, it did. So hopefully not the same demise for these guys. I know that these guys are probably sober, and the turn 1 won't be as detrimental. But yeah, it's amazing, like things with that, with iRacing, where you can have the sun play a factor into the race and be the determining factor.
I like how you added on that these guys are quote-unquote probably sober. Making sure the bases are covered now.
Yeah, right.
It's not a guarantee, but probably.
I could imagine. If I was doing this and I had any alcohol in me, I probably would not have lasted this long out on this track
Oh,
with
no kidding.
how bumpy it's been and how tight these guys are keeping this race. So kudos to them if they're able to do both.
Well, we will officially enter that range. You're now good to go to the end on fuel. Tony Hilbrand's running the top. Matthew Johnson still down low. 25 laps to go. And nobody opting for the early pit.
Yeah, they're all still out on the track. Kind of not super surprised. I think a lot of these guys are probably going to wait for the caution just for the fact that pit entry under green is going to be a nightmare here. And you really have to get somebody to commit to go with you, because if you go down there by yourself, your race day is done, because you'll just have nobody in the draft to help you get around the track. So you'll probably see a lot of these guys dive down together. Definitely outside line guys are going to have to wait to see what the inside line guys are going to do. So if you're struggling to get your fuel to the end, good luck if you're on the outside line.
24 laps to go as we enter that final quarter of this season opener. And what a season opener it has been. I mean, non-stop entertainment from start to finish. A massive step up. I mean, while yes, we're about, 7 cars lighter on the field size than we were in last season's race, having all that extra car count doesn't mean anything if you can't race. And boy, can you race in these Gen 4s. This was honestly a phenomenal decision to switch to these cars. It's something new, it's something fresh, and best of all, it puts on a show.
Yeah, these guys are putting on doing a phenomenal job tonight. Like I said in the race, they've definitely proved, or before race, that they proved me wrong, as I expected them to go single file, play it safe early on, and then break off into smaller packs as the race progressed. But they've kept it too wide nearly the entire race, for sure up front, and almost throughout the entire field. And one person I'd like to bring up right now that's kind of sneaking into podium position here is Benjamin Lacey. He's kind of been under the radar tonight, and all of a sudden here he is sitting in 3rd place.
Now up to 2nd as he's going to drive around to the top shelf, and a big tag there to Paul Wilson, and you saw the bobble coming around through 3 and 4. Great job to keep that car underneath him. Matthew Johnson to the outside wall. Spinning on the front straightaway. Hilbrand's involved. Dees is there. The 24. The big one. Part 3 at Daytona has 6, 7, 8, 9 all involved in the tri-oval.
Oh, man, we were expecting a green flag stop there. I'm really sad that we didn't get it, but, with this track and these cars, it's tough to keep it going. And unfortunately, that luck for us came to an end with these green flag stops tonight. Very unfortunate, because that was our leader that was actually Johnson, that was actually collected in that incident, that began that incident. And honestly, I'm surprised there isn't quite a few more cars that weren't involved with that. Usually when the leader gets taken out, it's a pretty disastrous result.
And who's the one that even caused this? As I think this is actually a lap early, so this is a lap earlier than we anticipated. As we'll get a bit of a better look at this one here as the pack comes out at turn number 4, and working to the front straightaway. Hilbrand's came down, just got a little loose and hooked Matt Johnson hard into the concrete wall. Rebounded into Paul Wilson, and it's on from there. Dees gets kicked up into the air. Hilbrand's into the air. The 24 gets involved. I think the 3 just skated through. The 83 got up on 2 wheels. Bridger Olsen took a hard hit. And more, as that was a nasty incident. Dalton Kilrow right through the middle.
Beautiful save by Kilrow there. It kind of looks like Hilbrand's actually got bumped a little bit of a bump draft coming out of that corner, which caused him to get a little loose. And then, with tagging the corner, the right rear corner like that on, just about any car is going to cause that rear end to wiggle out on you, and just nothing he could do to save that. I can't tell if that was a snap oversteer from his car or if he just got bumped into that, but unfortunate event for both those drivers. Definitely, obviously, just totally unintentional. And Dalton Kilrow, man, he flew through that disaster, and he's going to benefit tremendously from that incident for sure.
Oh, no kidding. That was a
Oh.
great drive from him to get around that. And you take a look, and goodness, there were a few cars that took some air in that mess as there you see the whole scope of everything on the front straightaway. That was a pretty nasty lick from a few drivers. I think that's got to be one of the biggest wrecks we've had so far all night.
Yeah, for sure. 74, I don't know if he's got a fast repair. He'll definitely want to take it on that run. There was like one or two other guys that are definitely going to have to use their fast repair if they have not yet because of that incident. But here we are. Is this Dalton Kilrow on board?
It is.
Oh, this is going to make
Oh.
iRacing top 10 highlights for sure. This needs that ESPN dun-dun-dun, jingle added onto it for the iRacing top 10 highlights because that was such a beautiful save by Dalton Kilrow.
And there goes the pack just falling apart in the middle of the tri-oval as
Wow.
few hard licks all around. That was a nasty incident, and it's a shame that so many good cars got torn up in that.
Yeah, that's going to be an unfortunate event for a lot of those guys tonight. When you're mid-pack like that, you just really want to try and keep it clean. Oh, there's Ty Marasco getting dinged. I think I saw D's get involved in that as well. Mid-pack, you're just kind of a victim once they start spinning in front of you because it's so tight and there's so much action going on around you.
From the static wall, and this gives an idea for the speed that they were wrecking at. I mean, we're talking 200 plus miles an hour as they fly through the infield grass, coming at you at high speed. Goodness gracious. Well, we'll get set to go back to green flag racing this time with 19 to go, and now we're good to go to the end. But is it going to be enough to be able to fully, I think, go for 3 green white checkered attempts if it comes down to it?
Yeah, it's been tough to gauge because they did so well at the beginning of this race, keeping it green. Just been plagued by cautions recently. I just think there's some fatigue involved, some rust from coming into your first race after the off season and coming into such a bumpy track with these wiggly cars. If they just maybe get their elbows, keep their elbows to themselves for a little bit, keep it 2 wide, try to avoid those 3 wide situations. Obviously, bump drafting in the turns has proven to be 0 for 6 when it comes to saving the car. So try and stay away from bump drafting in the corners. They could go for a solid run. I know these guys have it in them to give us 20 laps of green flag racing. So it's just going to take discipline on their part to be able to pull it off.
Well, the difference right now, I mean, we know they've gone 24 laps earlier in this race under green before getting caution flag number 1. Crash under the caution flag, and is that going to extend this? It does not look like it. We're going to go back to green here from the looks of things. That was Satmary that got turned to the back, and we're back to green.
Yeah, that was an interesting interaction. I don't know if there was a technical issue that caused that or what, but it seemed like he just straight up rear-ended the number 98 car coming out of this turn. Oh, there was a brake check. Yeah,
he turned himself.
Unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah, brake checking at Daytona is never going to help.
I don't think brake checking, more just drivers stacking up. Crashing on the backstretch. No. Wilson around, spins to the grass. That was one of the messiest restarts I think we've seen all race long. I mean, Ashmore involved, cautions out for the 7th time now. What just happened throughout all of that? That was the weirdest restart I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe tempers are beginning to flare, and we're beginning to see people, throw those little nudges in there to retaliate. But I've had this. I've been a victim of this myself. When you just get that accordion effect going on, somebody thought they were going to be smart, clever, and jump the start, and then it causes the checkup behind them, and 3 or 4 cars back, you have no clue it's coming, and then you just have nothing to give to stop. So, unfortunate situation there for Paul. I think that those are just issues that happen occasionally. But well, see what happens down this backstretch here.
Haggy. I think Wilson chopped the nose of Haggy, and the 97 just didn't have anywhere to go because he had a car that was right to his back bumper as well.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate event there.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. He just chopped the nose. Yeah, nothing Haggy did wrong there at all.
Oh, no, for sure. No, definitely not. I don't pass any blame on him for there. You know, Paul Wilson probably thought he would have had a better time going into those turns in the bottom line and did not have the room to make that move.
Well, caution number 7 is back out. We will take ourselves a look back, and we'll be back to Green Flag Racing in just a moment.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Working the back straightaway, we'll restart with 15 to go in the SimWrapMarket 250 from Daytona International Speedway. Once again, my name is Lowell Rempel alongside Josh Baird. And Josh, it's been a thrilling race so far, but working yellow flag number 7, they've started to mount over these last 30 or so. Do we think we make it back to the checkered flag under green, or do we potentially go to overtime?
My last call was that we would get a green flag run, and I think every time I make a comment about, single file racing or green flag runs, I get proven wrong. So maybe I'm going to call a caution, and we'll see if we'll do some reverse psychology on that. These guys they're doing pretty well if they can, remain disciplined. So that's going to be the key to the end of this race. This is where discipline's going to matter the most. But you're also going to see a lot of guys throwing Hail Marys at this point.
Green flag went back in the air this time by as we go back to green flag racing with just 15 laps on the docket. Michael Thorpe Jr. taking off with the race lead. As the field hightails it down towards turn number 1. Hilbrand jumps low from the backside of the racetrack, but right now a 4-car breakaway with Nickerson, Lacey, and Gibson all in the top running.
Yeah, the 31 car just unfortunate there. Everybody dove down on him. He didn't really have anybody to draft up with, so he's going to drop back into 4th place. And here we go. I think we maybe will see some of this discipline that we were talking about, where they'll single file out here and just try and get some green flag running. I know as a driver, it gets pretty frustrating when you only get 1 or 2 green flag laps and then you get caution. So, these drivers may be at a point where they're like, hey, I want some green flag racing. That's what I come out here to do, is go full speed, not 70 miles per hour around this thing. So maybe we'll expect to see some disciplined racing as we stretch single file going into turn number 1.
Still going single file down into turn number 1. Whoa! A jump to the outside for Benjamin Lacey. Cuts off the run from Brian Dees as we fire down the back straightaway right alongside Christopher Bassinger. And right now, Lacey on an absolute tear to the top shelf, and all up the middle goes Bridger Olsen. Bridger Olsen might have just been turned middle of the pack. He has kept it straight, but a huge bobble there from the 9 as he tried to put it 3 abreast. And he's still trying for it.
Yeah, you're going to start getting towards the end of the race where you're sitting is going to be key to your ability to finish this race well. I don't know Oh no, here we go with the caution. I was just getting ready to say I don't know if taking it 3 wide is the answer. Sometimes you just got to strategize well, but sometimes you got to throw that Hail Mary as well and see what sticks. Unfortunately, the usual results that came from going 3 wide in these cars came to fruition. Going back earlier to what happened with Benjamin Lacey, that was a very championship move. He was sitting about 4th or 5th in the pack. He saw that outside train coming up, and he jumped up right at the right time to pick up that train and pick up that momentum on the outside. But yeah, going 3 wide, I don't see I see where you want to get aggressive because you got to be in the right spot at the end of the race. But man, 3 wide is a tough call for anybody at this track, no matter how skilled you are. So trying to dive in maybe on the outside lane when there's a gap there on the outside lane, but taking it 3 wide is a tough ask for anybody.
Taking a look back to this one, exiting the tri-oval from the grandstands as Nickerson went hard into the wall, and then there was somebody else at the 8-1 car that got kind of kicked up and into the air as well. So there were a few incidents as a result of this mess. I want to get a look on board with Dustin Ping first in the number 81 car. Take a ride on board as he's going to launch off of the right rear quarter panel of Marasco, and that's what sent him around.
Unfortunately for Ty Marasco, I'm pretty sure I've seen him in just about every caution that's been a part of this race today. So most of the time he's been the unfortunate victim, but there's just days where you're in every wreck, and then there's days where you're Dalton Kilroe flying through and gaining 5 or 6 positions. So unfortunate for Ty Marasco, he keeps getting caught up in these incidents today.
Here. Look at that 2 car get up on 2 wheels and kind of be pinballed around, and then there goes the 81 wrecking down to the inside. Brian Dees took another vicious whack into the outside wall.
Yeah, the MF Racing Design Cup cars today are just a victim of a lot of circumstances. It's funny. I'm surprised. Well, not funny, but I didn't see anybody catch the air and flip their car in that incident. I would at least expected to see the number 2 go upside down from going backwards at that speed, but everybody managed to keep their hood or the roof of their car right side up this time.
So, let's see. Yellow flag number 8, 11 laps to go. We'll restart, I think, with 9 to go. I think we're going into overtime, honestly. I don't see us finishing this race under regulation.
Yeah, I don't either. I think, you know, especially with fast repairs, if there's a guy out there that's like, hey, I'm willing to burn a fast repair to get aggressive, try and gain some positions, he'll probably send it out there. But Leroy Jenkins, the situation, if you will. So hopefully we don't run into too many of those. I really liked when I saw those guys starting to stretch single file. That shows me disciplined racing, but you know, you're not going to stay single file for the rest of the race. So you're going to see guys try and go 2-3 wide, try and get that last position that they can before the checkered flags. So hopefully we don't go into overtime, but I can't imagine this is going to be a caution-free finish.
Lights still on. We'll see if they should extinguish this time by. I don't see them not extinguishing this time around, but it's just a shame, right? I mean, this race started so well, and I was still hoping that we're going to get ourselves with a solid finish here, but that aggression is ramping up, and we're getting closer and closer to eliminating some cars from the equation. The 31 going to pull up alongside the 20 a passenger. Lights do go out, so a potential 9-lap sprint. Right now, 19 cars remain on the lead lap, but only about 17 still on the racetrack.
You know, 17 still on the racetrack for the first race of the season is not actually a bad ask for these guys. You know, one of the people that has kind of been the quiet hero in all this has been Michael Thorpe Jr. I don't think I've really seen him up towards the front until the time has been right, and right now the time's right. I know I've seen a lot of promise from him last season too, as I've been watching those races. So this guy taking the first one of the season wouldn't be a huge surprise for me, and it's quite refreshing to see a guy that's been quiet all race sneak his way up to the front. And that's how these restrictor plate tracks work. Is it's not about the guy that's you know, going 3 wide, 4 wide into the turn. It's about that guy that's jumping from the outside lane to the inside lane at the right place, the right time, and catching those opportunities. So credit to Michael Thorpe Jr. for taking advantage of his opportunities tonight. So as we see, we're focused here on Dalton Kilroe, back up into 4th position after Lord knows how many incidents he's been involved in tonight. And maybe that miracle save by him earlier in the race is credit to his position now.
Of course, Dalton Kilroe, the Florida native, trying to see if he can take this one home and make a charge through to the to see if he can take a win at his home track. Thorpe into the restart zone. Green flags out. We are back underway with 9 laps remaining from the Daytona International Speedway. Thorpe, okay, well, there goes one car in the background. The 52 of Ulrich spinning into the infield. He's going to tag off the inside wall. No yellow, though. We'll keep it green.
Yeah, I think you got tired people. You probably have frustrated people at this point, and just mistakes happening left and right. It looks like Ty Marasco. Oof. Yeah. I can't tell if that was a checkup or retaliation. We'll have to assume that it was just an accident and continue on our way as Thorpe Jr. is battling the 2023 champion of the High Tide Racing League right now.
Ripping off of the high banks, a 3 and 4. Back to the tri-oval. Thorpe still hangs on to the lead for the time being, but Lacey looking to give him a run for his money up on the top shelf. Right now, Bassinger and Kilroe, the 2 main pushers. This main pack about 13 strong as we work through turns 1 and 2. Still looking like it's still an aggressive race, right? Everybody, I think, is trying to probe the gaps, figure out who's weak where, how can you make moves up in these dying laps of the race.
Yeah, that's super key to a place like Daytona and Talladega, where it's finding those guys that make those little mistakes. And when you make a mistake at a track that's going this fast, there's a whole car length that can open up for. Oh, looks like we have another caution coming out of turn number 4 with the number 4 of Scott Schuer in the infield.
And Mike Messingill as well in there, so potential car-to-car contact to bring out another incident as Lacey with the lead, and this will put us dangerously close to overtime, but I think we will still finish under regulation time for this one.
Yeah, as the pace car drifted coming off the apron, that was amazing to watch. The numbers, yeah, he's already sideways there. I'd like to see maybe Bridger Olson again involved in the incident with the number 4 of Scott Schuer. It's hard to know what's going on with these guys.
Oh my God!
Ooh, nice avoidance. That was a beautiful save there to avoid another incident. So maybe some frustration, maybe some fatigue.
Trying to get a little bit of a better look at what happened to Messingill here. There's a little bit of a hit there for Bridger Olson. I'm not sure. I mean, Marasco's to the outside, but I don't think Olson would just turn him like that. Looking to turn number 3. Oh, he came down. He went up, left the door open, just shut it at the last minute. Then he's going to take a pretty hefty punt here to the door. I mean, lifted that car up in the air and all, and then yikes for chasing Greenwell.
Yeah, great job by Greenwell to avoid that accident. Yeah, this is... Yeah, 2 cars can't fit in one space. That's just physics. So having these 2 guys get contacted like that, I think it's, you know, some of the end of the race, breaking off some of that rust. They're going to have issues running into that. Oof, great job avoiding that Greenwell.
Caution number 9. We get one more. We're into overtime. We'll be back with the final 4 or so laps of this race in a moment. Getting set to go racing for the what could be the final time here tonight at Daytona International Speedway. Benjamin Lacey with the lead. Thorpe to his outside. 4 laps to go in the SimWrapMarket 250.
Benjamin Lacey and Dalton Kilroe now get the inside line as where they were on the outside of the previous lap. So it'll be interesting to see how this switches up the leaderboard going into the final laps of this race. I imagine these guys are going to be racing their tails off for these final 4 laps. So expect to see plenty of action as they come out of turn number 2, going down the back stretch with still packed up pretty tightly.
One more caution. We find ourselves into the first of 3 overtime attempts. They're going to go for 3 wide. They thought about going for 4, but they're going to keep it just tripled out as they work into turn numbers 3 and 4. A lot of moving around in the middle of the pack. Thorpe clears to the bottom from Lacey, and it'll be the 34 car to lead the way. Thompson scrapes the outside wall in turn 4, but Michael Thorpe Jr. leading with 3 to go. Here comes Passenger on the top shelf.
Yeah, I can't even decide which lane I'd prefer to be in a 3-wide scenario here with these cars, because you get the top line and you're going to be in the wall. You get the middle line, you're bouncing around so much, you're going to be a victim either direction you go.
There we go.
As they checked into the number 20.
Oh!
Sean Britt nearly goes into the crowds with that hit. Oh, unfortunate. It's so hard to go 3 wide in these cars. I think Sean Britt just even took a toe there. But, yeah, I couldn't even tell you which line I would prefer to even be in a 3-wide situation, because it's just so bumpy around here, so tight when you get that many bumps, as it looked like.
Just a bad bump from Nickerson in the back of the 81, and it sends everyone around. Watch Sean Britt here as this car takes flight. Coming through turn number 2, kicked up on top of the 31. Nickerson as well going for a ride in the Coors Light number 2.
Yeah, I see Nick Nickerson down there at the bottom, Sean Britt. It looks like, is that Hilbrands back there too that may have gotten involved in this incident? Yep, I think so. So, a lot of big names, a lot of guys that were hoping to have a good start to their season in the fight for the championship are now struggling to keep their car damage free at this point. So it's going to be an interesting shakeup to see how these last few laps and with these last few cautions are going to shake up the leaderboard so early on in the season.
That is a wild ride for Sean Britt. He tanked that wall at about 170 miles an hour. I mean, there was no recovering that car when it went around. And this is with Nick Nickerson, who also was kicked up into the air. On top of Tony Hilbrands.
Yeah, he got clobbered many times in that incident, unfortunately.
Just nowhere for the 92 car to go, and got a pretty good look at the undercarriage there. And this is one of those wrecks I don't think a lot of people ended up making it through this wreck. You know, I mean, there was a lot that went wrong coming to the back straightaway.
Yeah, if there was such time as a big one, I would probably call this one the big one for today. Clear up from second, third place. The rest of the field just has nowhere to go when you're that tight, and everybody's racing so hard to try and get that last couple spots before the end of the race. So, unfortunate for everybody involved in there. Yeah, look at that, 3 wide, 3 deep, actually going on there, and that's recipe for a big one for sure.
I think Ty Marasco actually managed to get that thing slowed down just enough. We'll ride on board with the number 1 car approaching this wreck. Stack up, stack up, stack up, and he almost got involved.
See, and that's expert wreck avoidance right there. I think people get so caught up in racing that they forget that you can use your brakes to avoid a wreck. And Ty Marasco just go to show you what happens when you actually slow up and show patience as the wreck happens in front of you. You get a chance to go from gosh, I don't know what place he was before, but now he's sitting beautifully in 8th position. A guy that's been struggling all day to dodge wrecks is now looking at a top 10 and, you know, willing a top 5, even a podium finish.
We are into our first of 3 possible overtime attempts. Now, for our viewers that may be a little bit more unfamiliar with how oval racing works, or if you're kind of new to the scene, the way this works, it's also known as a green-white checkered attempt. If a race goes past regulation distance, we will restart this race with 2 extra laps added on for a green flag, then a white flag, then a checkered flag. If we crash before the final lap, we will reset, we'll add 2 more laps on, and try it again. If we crash after the white flag, no caution will come out. It will end under green flag conditions if we take the white flag. If we use our 3rd green-white checkered attempt and we crash again on the restart, then we will not be having another restart and we will finish this race under caution. So that's kind of a little breakdown of how the overtime attempt rules work. This is number 1 of 3.
Yeah, we have a few less cars in the field going into these green-white checkered situations and the overtime situations. So now with only 17 cars left on the field, we might see a little bit quicker of a finish. But, you know, with how hard and how competitive these guys have been tonight, I don't want to speak too soon because these guys are racing their tires off tonight. And for better or for worse, it's led to 10 cautions. 10 isn't terrible. It's definitely not the worst we've had here, but I'm just hoping for a great finish here at Daytona.
We'll restart with 2 to go. Thorpe leads, Lacey second, Kilborough, Passenger, Satmary, Johnson, and Moore to round out the top 10. And right now, 17 cars remain on the lead lap. Each one of them has about an even Steven chance on going after the checkered flag, because we know what's going to happen when that white flag drops.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see how this finish is going to go. I'm also seeing some newer names up here. So guys that have maintained patience throughout the race are now looking at a chance to have a good finish here as we get ready to go green in our first overtime series, and hopefully our last, as it seems like Michael Thorpe Jr. gets a pretty decent jump coming out. Oh, and here we go, wrecking.
There's
again.
attempt 2.
Well, there goes so much for our first free attempt.
Do we allow mulligans? I don't think we do.
Right.
But,
unfortunately, Benjamin Lacey was caught up in that one. So
yeah.
A guy that was going to defend his championship is now looking to fight from the back of the pack. I imagine the damage wasn't too bad because they weren't even quite up to full speed yet. So he'll probably get his chance to come around and take another stab at it, but very unlikely for him to get a podium at this point. But hey, I mean, I would almost sit back.
He missed a shift.
Oh.
I don't know. That's a lot of damage. I mean, he got kicked up into the air, and the deck lid came unlatched as well.
Yeah.
Well, right on board.
It's quite a bit of damage. Yeah, with these older cars, you don't have the sequential shifter.
Listen in. Right there. Missed that shift. Never shifted to 3rd. I got kicked on his side. That is, I hate to say it, that is all driver error on Lacey. That's self-inflicted. He can blame no one but himself for that.
Well, I'll tell you what, too. He'll never do that again because there's nothing worse than being in second place and missing a shift to ruin your race. So he's going to be very conscious of shifting from here on out throughout the season.
Coming at you. Watch as he gets shoved into the outside wall and nearly goes into the fence, and collected a good number of drivers as well. Ty Marasco found the inside wall. I think Jason Greenwell got a piece. There are a few cars that got collected up in that. As, oh, look out. We got a lot of cars catching the tail end of the field here. And they're coming up relatively quickly. And we talked about it earlier, right? These cars don't have the best brakes. And we saw one driver already get in trouble for that earlier in this race about running through the back of the field. Looking like a few will come to pit road.
Yep. Probably damage repair at this point, obviously, with overtime, you're not looking for fuel or tires at this point, just any damage repair you can get. Once again, Ty Marasco involved in the incident, so another bad break for that guy today.
And
just can't seem to catch. Yeah, and D's as well. MFRD is really struggling to keep the car clean, to their not to their detriment, or not to their fault necessarily, but MFRD just seems to be a magnet for destruction today.
It's a shame because you remember earlier in the race, they were controlling both lanes at the head of the field.
Oh yeah, when I first saw those guys going out when they were controlling both lanes, I was like, man, this might be an MFRD show today, because when you can control both lanes in the front as a team, that's great position to be in. So it's really unfortunate that they've been returned to the pits to repair more damage once again. Also, Michael Thorpe Jr., man, again, I just got to commend him for his strategy. He just seems to have avoided the wrecks where he needed to and be in the right place at the right time. Dalton Kilrow is thanking his lucky stars for his wreck avoidance that he had earlier in the race that allows him to be in second place.
Kilrow is in the catbird seat right now to try and take the win from the top side, but I don't know. Something still tells me that we're not going to be seeing either of these two drivers taking the race win tonight. I mean, if we get to the white flag, all bets are going to be off, and it is going to be absolute calamity on that final lap. And the first two drivers that might get turned around are the top two.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary spot to be in this late in the race, to be sitting in the front two, because as people get aggressive, you're a big target for them to give you that little nudge to try and get back past you, or squeeze in between you to try and take the lead there on the final lap. So I don't know if I really am jealous of being in the position of first and second spot. Heck, I'd almost want to be the guy in the last that's going to avoid the big one and jump to try and gain those last few spots. So maybe Ty Marasco might be our race winner after all, because he's the last guy on the lead lap.
Let's go out. Overtime attempt number 2. So we're going to reset. We'll try this again, but it's not been the way that we've been hoping for this season opener to go down, but it's been interesting, I think, to put it mildly. And we'll see what's going to happen here in these last 5 miles of racing action. I don't know. I think we might go to attempt number 3.
Yeah, I would go ahead and join you in saying that, because these guys are really trying hard to get those early season points. Coming out the gate with the race win at Daytona always sets you up for a successful season. So you're going to see a lot of these guys try and get as many points as they can out the gate, and it's just going to cause somebody to create an incident that hopefully won't collect too many cars. And I was trying to reflect too, that would I want to be on the outside lane or the inside lane going into this final overtime?
I think inside. The inside lane has been pretty good right out of the hitch. So I think right now Thorpe could be the best driver to take off. But, of course, the one place you don't want to be on a super speedway on the final lap is in the lead. Pace car will dive in this time by, and it'll be Michael Thorpe Jr. to take us to the green flag for our second overtime attempt.
Yeah, Michael Thorpe Jr. doing a pretty decent job at not making sure that he gets too far ahead there, just getting barely a nose pass. But this gives him an opportunity to get in front of Kilrow as they go into turn number 1, and Kilrow is going down to the inside of Michael Thorpe Jr. as they get ready to try and fight for the lead, going into the turn number 2 out onto the backstretch. What a move by Kilrow to get down onto the inside of Michael Thorpe Jr. Michael Thorpe Jr. trying to create that defensive move by taking the nose off of Kilrow, and it seems to have actually paid off, because now it looks like that outside line's starting to pick up a little bit of pace. We are 3 wide.
Look at Haggy trying to throw it up the middle. Oh, big crash, turn number 3. They're going to turn it around, and the yellow flag is out. Hilbrand's on his side. We'll reset again. They couldn't make it back to the white flag. Eddie Haggy went up the middle, and I think that caused all the calamity we just saw unfold in turn number 4. Haggy will pick up the race lead for the final attempt.
Aggie coming out of nowhere. Having quiet race so far. I don't feel like we've called his name too many times tonight, but 3 wide, 2 deep. So, you know, just kind of what we expected from these guys. Almost 3 wide, 3 deep, but just kind of what we expected from these guys trying to get those last minute moves. Got pinched up in there in the middle. Number 52 kind of got drug up into that pile and collected those guys. So Steve Ulrich having an unfortunate moment there to create that incident, and we will be resetting for one final time.
Yeah, Ulrich just drifting up the track, and gosh, the 31 took a violent hit to the outside wall. You saw the back of that car lift off the ground, and that is a harsh, harsh hit. Take a ride on board with Ulrich here, and we'll get a look at Hilbrands as well. This is on board with Ulrich. Sorry, that was the 31 of Connor Gibson. My apologies. That kind of got a bit tangled up. But this is with Hilbrands. Lifted up and then almost on top of the wall. Slams back down to earth. That is going to put an end to Hilbrands' day. And then this will be with Connor Gibson to the 31. Look at that.
Yeah, I hope Connor Gibson doesn't have a motion simulator because he will be filling that one in the morning. Very violent move into the wall. And, man,
wow.
Hilbrands taking a nice chunk out of that safety barrier as well. Talked to Hilbrands pre-race, and he said, you know, I expect to have a good finish as long as it keeps clean. And, you know, I think he's at the point now where he's probably frustrated with how his day is ending because I think he had high expectations of finishing this race well today.
Well, I think he's got good reason to be upset too, right? I mean, he was in a genuinely good position, and I mean, he's done nothing wrong of himself. He's just been collecting in everybody else's mess throughout the course of the afternoon. So he's got good reason to be upset.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure there's quite a few drivers at this point that have quite a few frustrations. I'm sure there'll be a few Discord DMs after this race of, you know, why did you check me into that wall, or why did you take it 3 wide there, or, you know, so I'm sure there's going to be some rivalries that may begin to blossom out of this race just because of, you know, how aggressive people have been driving today.
So everyone so far is still I think, a competition up into the front that we can expect to see win this race. 11 cars sit on the track on the lead lap. That is about to be 12 as Nick Nickerson making his way back onto the racetrack, as is Connor Gibson and Christopher Bassinger. So 14 total on the lead lap. Everyone else is at least one down. This is now our final green-white checkered attempt as well. If we get one more caution, this race ends under yellow.
Yeah, that would be really unfortunate to see, just because we've had so much action from these guys today. I'd really like them to see, like, you know, dig deep in their mental capacity to be able to just race clean for a couple more laps. You know, sometimes finishing 6th is better than finishing, you know, at this point you can finish as low as 14th. So, you know, take that 6th place finish for this race and then go into the next race with that momentum. So, it's unfortunate to see some of these guys that, you know, have been, had the ability to get a nice top 5 finish, maybe the last step on the podium, but maybe getting a little bit too aggressive to try and get that one more spot. And I'm hoping this last set of laps here, these guys will be a little more content with where, you know, relatively where they finish.
I think next week's race, right, is going to be it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be a caution fest like tonight's been, because it's Rockingham, or it's going to go almost green to the end because it's Rockingham. And what I mean by that is it's a track that's easy to lose control on, but it's very difficult to get car-to-car contact crashes because of how notoriously difficult it is to pass there. That's what I mean. It's going to go one of two ways. Either everybody's going to keep it calm, and we're going to get ourselves with a relatively clean race, or there's going to be a lot of self-spins to bring out some yellows.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think a lot of the cautions tonight have just been car-to-car contact. I mean, this is a track where you wouldn't see a lot of self-spins or anything like that, but you know, a lot of it's been just little tiny taps that have upset the rear of the car as we get ready to go green for the final time, as Haggy, a name that we haven't been talking about much, is taking the lead at the start-finish line as we were getting ready to go into turn number 1.
Thorpe trying to push up to the outside already. Tucks in line with Matthew Johnson while the rest of the pack siphons it out. Double file into turn number 1. Ty Marasco onto the apron, able to get it back underneath him. Peggy leading the way down the backstretch.
Here they come out of the backstretch too wide as far as the eye can see deep, so these guys are not going to give up easily. We're going to probably expect them to see these guys go too wide across the finish. I know a lot of times, as we go 3 wide in the back group here, it looks like Ty Marasco is not content, or I'm sorry, Dees is not content with where he was sitting on the field, so he takes it deep inside that corner as they come out of turn number 4, keeping it clean for the most part, and if we might actually get it as we get them to cross the finish line. Oh my goodness, they kept it clean throughout the final lap of the race.
Kilroe taking the white flag. Eddie Haggy trying to chase after him as we look to finish this race out. Haggy going to get in there. Kilroe bounces off the right rear quarter panel. Haggy still leads the way, but here comes Dalton Kilroe trying to battle back on the back straightaway. Thorpe way to the outside, trying to throw the Hail Mary around the top, 3 wide, and the approach down to turn number 1. Haggy still clear with the race lead. Nobody helping Thorpe. Thorpe's into the wall. He's going to slam into the second time. It's between Haggy and Kilroe. Haggy's turn for the lead. Big crash across the line. Who makes it through? Does anyone make it through? And Michael Ashmore, side by side, 4 wide finish. Give it to Ashmore, taking the 98 car to victory lane.
Oh my goodness, what a finish. I knew we expected to see some action, but 4 wide at the finish line was not what I would have called out of the playbook for tonight.
What a run! Ashmore out of nowhere, sniping the win in a sneak attack out of the final corner.
Yeah, beautiful drive by Ashmore to just keep it clean and wait for the guys in front of you to wreck. That's the kind of discipline that we wanted to see from these guys tonight, is to try and keep it clean, because at the end of the day, you can get those lucky breaks as everybody else gets those spins. And Ashmore looking like a veteran, even though I think he's a rookie this season.
He sure is. And in his debut start, Michael Ashmore will burn it down on the front straightaway from the Daytona International Speedway as a race winner by the skin of his teeth.
Hashtag Gross is going to be trending tonight in the High Tide Racing League. I'm so proud of the guy for you know, trying to keep it clean and keeping it quiet and sneaking out with the race win tonight. Beautiful job to take the time and time it right.
Take a look back at this one as they all began to fall apart. We'll get a bit of a bigger look back at this one because there's a lot that happens here on the final lap. Watch Eddie Haggy here as he's going to get turned by Ty Marasco. That spins the one around, and that's going to... I told you, the top 2 on the last lap are not going to be the ones that win this race. Wipes out everyone at the top running. Somehow, the 83 makes it through. Haggy nearly went up and over. I think one car did go up and over on his side. That's Ty Marasco sliding against the wall. Ashmore sweeps through, and it's still not over because here comes second and third that bang doors, and I think that right there, where the 83 of Gilmore ran into the 81 of Ping, that is what gave Ashmore enough momentum to take the win.
Yeah, beautiful finish to that race. You know, I think we were beginning to all feel the frustrations of wrecking out, but at the same time, it also makes for great finishes when you can watch these guys go 4 wide across the start finish line. Ty Marasco, just a little too close to Haggy there going through those turns. We have not seen the bump draft in the turns be successful tonight. And then watching these two guys, if they would have kept that clean, they would have been the first 2 on the podium. So it's unfortunate that they got collected. But once you get your doors bouncing off each other like that, it's hard to keep from bouncing. So, the student driver car, not usually the student drivers usually aren't involved in the wrecks because they're slower drivers, but tonight he was involved.
What a monster of a finish. And we'll get one final look on board with the 24 of Paul Satmary here, the driver that ends up finishing the 5th place. He was on the outside line when all of this went down. Thorpe slammed the wall once then twice. Watch him avoid the carnage to sweep home to take a top 5.
Beautiful wreck avoidance for Satmary there. And here we go again for part number 2. I bet he was just clenching his knuckles there, like, oh, please don't let this be me be involved in this. So great job by Paul to avoid all that carnage that was going on around him and secure that finish.
What an absolutely wild way to close out racing action tonight at the end of the SimWrapMarket 250 in a 4-wide drag race. Brian Dees. Oh, sorry, a bit of a mix-up here on the official standings. We'll try to get a better confirmation on this one because this is not at least what we have. I can tell you right now, these are the qualifying results. No wonder. Okay, I was a bit confused as to what was going on and why I said no time. That explains a lot. Here we go. The race results. What we're all here for. Michael Ashmore taking the race away with Matthew Johnson in 2nd. Jason Greenwell and Dustin Ping round out the 4-car grudge match to close out that run to the checkered flag. Paul Satberry will take it home in 5th with Scott Schuer in 6th. Michael Lord Jr. was in 7th. Dalton Kilroy 8th. Paul Wilson, Ty Marasco round out the top 10.
Yeah, Christopher Bassinger in 11th, Connor Gibson in 12th, Nick Nickerson in 13th, and Eddie Haggy in 14th. And then the rest of the guys finished a couple laps down with Steve Ulrich in 15th. Tony Hillbrands ended up in 16th after that late incident. Benjamin Lacey had a great end of the race, or great running at the end, but ended up finishing in 17th with Brian Dees in 18th. Sean Britt in 19th, Richard Olson, Mike Massengill, Dakota Knoll, and Matthew Chastain finish off your grid. A couple guys at the end there that are pretty big names that were fighting for a championship last year are off to a rough start this year.
No kidding. A lot of drivers off to a rough start, but there's a long way still yet to go before we can focus up on what's coming up next. We, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't jump back to give a chit-chat here to the drivers that put on such a phenomenal race for us here tonight. And we will look to kick things off first and foremost with the driver that somehow sweeps through, snipes the win for his first debut win in High Tide Racing League, and as I understand, his first league win as well. Michael Ashmore brings it home in victory lane. Michael, walk us through those last couple corners because holy cow, what a ride.
Well, I still don't know what to say, man. I'm not really used to doing these kind of interviews. I've never finished higher than 3rd in a damn league race before, so just try to ride in the back. It's usually what I try to do in these plate races, just ride in the back and hope you miss all the nonsense and the BS and the people going 3 wide for 6th on lap 15. I mean, if you want to do that, that's great, but need to be there at the end and tried to weave my way through it at the end. Saw the way that they were looking like they were going to wreck there at the end, pulled down hard left and avoided it, and somehow crossed the line first there. I cannot freaking believe it, man.
Overall, it was a crazy race for this one. A lot of drivers have shown that they've got a lot of preference for the Gen 4 cars as opposed to the Gen 7s. Of course, this league making the switch to the Gen 4 from that Gen 7 machine. Do you expect to see this type of racing continuing into the races going forward?
I sure hope so, because I can kind of squeeze my way into some of those spots when people keep wrecking each other for 13th, man. But, in all seriousness, no, this is really good racing. this is my first time racing with a lot of these guys. I've raced with Tony before, I've raced with Ben before, and Steve and Scott. I've raced with some of these guys before, but for the most part, this is my first time racing with this group, and it was really good. So I'm hoping that it's this kind of competitive nature out of everybody moving forward. I certainly would not expect me to be anywhere near the front moving forward. I'm never the fastest guy in any league I'm in. I'm just trying to run clean and hope for with this size of field, maybe a 12th, a 15th, something like that. So I suspect we won't be doing too many of these, but I am damn glad that we're doing this one, man.
Looking forward to the Rockingham Speedway coming up next. It's a very difficult track in of its own right. The one characteristic it shares with Daytona, oh boy, is it ever bumpy. Could we potentially see you looking to hang on to the points lead working into race number 2?
Absolutely not. Like I said, man, if I get even 15th there in this group, I mean, I think the strength of field or whatever is somewhere in around 2,500. I mean, when I'm in these kind of leagues, it's kind of like running top split, every race with how good these guys truly are. I mean, there's some pro level worthy dudes in here, and that's just not me, man. I don't have the time to really put in to get better and put in the work and do that. So just to get a chance to win one of these, I'm definitely not going to hold on to the points league. If I'm in the top 10 in points after week 2, I'm happy, man. I just going to enjoy the win, and whatever happens next week happens.
Well, who knows? We weren't expected to talk to you on the podium tonight entering that final lap, but here we are. So, one way to find out is to wait and see. Thank you for joining us up here tonight, Michael. Congratulations on your first league win.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for the broadcast, man.
Michael Ashmore going last to first. He snipes the win in a 4-wide drag race to the stripe. We'll look to bring up Matthew Johnson now, the driver that finishes in the runner-up spot and just falling short of the race win. And Josh, you're standing by with runner-up Matthew Johnson here.
Matthew, congratulations on the second place finish. What a wild finish we had today. I was just observing all the carnage that was going on, but I couldn't imagine being a driver through all that carnage. What was going through your mind as you see cars just diving off the track left and right?
Well, man, it was one of those nights where I got caught up in a couple, and I heard you talking on the air about these wheels and how strong they are. I'm actually icing my thumb because the incident where I got in the inside wall, I don't think it's broke, but it's sprained. So I'm going to have to I had to drive with that the rest of the night. And wow, I'm second. I don't know how that happened. I don't know. I just put the pedal down and seen the wreck and just went.
Yeah, congratulations to you for finishing in the second spot. It's pretty awesome to see. Going with these Gen 4 cars on this kind of track, it just seemed like it was really bumpy, really tough to keep the car where you wanted it on the track. Did you find yourself struggling at all with how these Gen 4 cars reacted to this old track layout?
Yeah, that was something different that I'd never done. I'd never run that car combination prior to the night. And my arms, my shoulders, everything's wore out. It beat the car around. Holding it in a steady line was next to impossible. If you were underneath somebody, every time you'd hit a bump, it'd want to force you up into that second lane, which is probably why we saw the wrecks we saw. It was just, it wore you out in these cars.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it makes me tired just watching you guys try and get these cars around this track. Looking forward, do you find yourself to be a super speedway guy, or are you kind of more of a short track? Is there any tracks, I guess, in the schedule coming up that you find yourself that you could be back up here on the podium?
Normally road courses. I got Sonoma, I got Watkins Glen. We'll take the car to Rockingham this week, test really hard. This is the only league that I run due to the fact I'm a broadcaster as well, so I'm busy all the time except for Monday. So I'll take my off time, go test, and go to Rockingham because let's face it, that's when the real season starts and we'll find out where we're at. I mean,
yeah, that's a good point you bring up that, Daytona is kind of the opening one. This is where you can break off the rust. A lot of strategy involved, but no brake pedal, no letting off the gas a ton. So Rockingham's going to be a true test to see how the drivers shake up going forward. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for your race finish today?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to JBR Racing. Worked with them back in the day quite a bit. They helped train me on how to do this. Of course, just those guys, Black Magic Graphics, for all their help with me on the car personally. I know we got some great painters here as well. I got to get another paint scheme on the car before next week, so probably reach out to our league guys and get a new paint scheme for Rockingham.
Hey, that pizza made me hungry as I was watching the race go by, so I do appreciate that. Well, thank you for joining us, Matthew Johnson, and we look forward to seeing you back on the podium later on in this season. Up next, we have Jason Greenwell. Actually, I don't see him in the waiting room, so we might actually be done with our interviews for today, huh?
We can't drag him down. I mean, we did
Oh,
that with
there
our
he
race
is.
winner.
Yeah.
We will briefly kidnap Jason Greenwell and drag him down in here for us at the broadcast booth. Well, Jason, you come home third place at the end of the night, and that car, it has seen better days. It was beat around the ringer tonight, but somehow in an all-out slugfest, you take home third. Walk us through it.
Oh, well, like you said, I mean, the car was absolutely put through the ringer tonight. Ended up with 8.5+ minutes of optional at one point in time, but, was able to get it all fixed up there on that last green-white checker caution there, and it was back up to speed. So, it had a chance and, just kind of guessed the right lines and wound up towards the front. So, glad I kind of stuck it out, and like I said, those guys had their work cut out for them in the pits there.
You were, of course, one of the you were one of the names that came home in this race that was actually with us in the. I'm going to rephrase that entirely. Sorry. You were one of the veterans that come into this series, of course, having raced all of last year with us as well for the High Tide Racing League. Gen 7 car to Gen 4 car, very different beasts and on very different tracks as well. What's your preference?
Oh, Gen 4, 100%. I mean, the Gen 7 is good for what it's good at, but I don't know. I prefer these, oval cars that are going to move around, that, they just kind of feel more comfortable in doing that kind of stuff. And, yeah, I don't know. Just feels right, if that makes any sense. And, these Gen 4 cars, the ARCA car with full horsepower, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Glad we're running this one this season, for sure.
And looking forward now to the Rockingham Speedway down in North Carolina. Obviously, it's a whole other monster compared to Daytona here tonight. And no doubt these cars are going to be just as hard to wrangle around the Rock. Will we be seeing you go for a repeat podium?
I'm going to give it a shot. Got to keep the fenders on it a little better. And these things are going to be an absolute handful there. But it's going to be a good time. It's always a lot of fun, running with these guys. And, yeah. Just going to see what we can do.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck next week. Congratulations on taking that third place by the smallest of margins. We'll see you next week then in North Carolina.
All right. Thanks much. See you then.
Jason Greenwell taking it home. Third place on the podium here in this one. And, well, now that will wrap out our podium interviews. But holy cow, it's been a really long time since I've got to see such a thrilling finish to a race. I am super, super excited to see what's going to be coming on up next at the High Tide Racing League come next week.
Yeah, these guys really put on a good show throughout. I mean, we kind of ragged on the cautions a little bit, but that's a product of great racing. I mean, we had so many 3-wides. I even look back at, I think it was the number 2 of Nick Nickerson when he took it down the middle and actually took the lead of the race. My mind is still blown about that. And honestly, I think I might actually have to go back and watch this replay right after that to even remember how the ending happened. It was so intense. So great job by these guys to put on such a fantastic show.
Well, we'll get the chance to see how this is all going to pan on out coming on down next week when we go racing at the Rockingham Speedway. Don't forget to tune in to our short track week on Green Flag TV for the OMSRL Truck Series, the Speed Tires Plus Cup Series, and the TNGGIL Truck Series. Run now to Martinsville, Bristol, and Iowa, respectively, for what should be, no doubt, some of the most thrilling races we're going to be having over the course of this next week as well. What a way to kick off the season, and we are no doubt going to be here for every single lap of it all going forward. My name is Nola Rempel, alongside Josh Baird, making his commentary debut on Green Flag TV. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week when we go racing at The Rock.